Awesome. DJ Graffiti, thank you, man. You sound amazing.
Thank you so much, Mario.
That's incredible. I'm Mario Armstrong, back here with you again to start our final countdown to day one. And I can feel the energy in this building and in this room right now. I know you can feel it too. And shout out to our live stream audience. We have live stream members that are watching us. They just joined the party. I bet you guys can feel this energy online as well, right? Everyone is getting powered up for what you're about to see on this very stage. In just a few moments, NetApp CEO George Kurian will take the stage and lay it all out for you. The evolution of data and its growing role in our lives. The massive potential of generative AI and how NetApp, the intelligent data infrastructure company, will give you the confidence to win in this new era. And he's not doing it alone. Of course, he's going to bring some friends. He's got some amazing, insightful guests to tell you more as well. In short, it's an empowered hour that you simply cannot miss. But first, I got a little bit of a different kind of power-up in store for you. I'm about to do something a little different from the headliner stage. I'm going off script. I think we should do VIP right now. Let's do a VIP giveaway right this moment. We're about to upgrade 2 lucky members to VIP status at tomorrow's party, Encore at Area 15. That's right, you and a friend will get a chance to hang out with the Royal Machines, the world's finest rock supergroup, and it's up for grabs right now. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna play a round of Powerball. Who's ready for some NetApp Powerball? You ready? Let's do it. We're going to do it. Okay, here's the deal. We're going to randomly draw the names of 2 Insight attendees, and each of these lucky individuals get VIP passes for themselves and a friend. It's that simple. So let's do this. Okay, and our winners, drum roll, please. Jacob Dixon and Rebecca Elliott. Congratulations. Big kudos to both of these folks. You are the 2 VIP winners from the Powerball from NetApp. Look for an email with instructions on how you will get to meet the band. Enjoy the meet and greet and have a blast at the party while you're there. Make sure you take some selfies so everybody knows it actually happened. Before we start our show, there's one more important note that I need to bring to your attention. Now, the slide above says it all, but the point is this. Please remember that some of what you're about to see on the headliner stage is vision content, and that means it's for informational purposes only, and the details are subject to change. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, please take a moment, silence your devices so we can get the festival energy going on in here. Because we're here, we're all here. You came from all across the globe. You're now at the eye-popping venue. We've got the towering stage. We have the killer lineup. All the pieces are in place. NetApp Insight, I gotta ask you something though. Before I do, DJ Graffiti, drop that beat. NetApp Insight, where does your power come from? What does it allow you to do? We know because we see its impact every single day. It fuels us, takes us to another level. It gives you the confidence to rise to every moment. Now is the time. We plug in and power up. Las Vegas Insight 2024 is on and it's empowered. Yes, clap it up. Yes, absolutely, you can clap it up. Yes, fantastic. Let's kick this thing off. If there is anyone here who does not have a seat, please make your way to the Boulevard Ballroom. There is overflow seating for you there. Just make your way to the Boulevard Ballroom, and you'll be able to see all the action as well. Las Vegas, NetApp Insight. Are you all ready? Make some noise. Let me feel you. There we go. Look at all these beautiful people. You all look amazing. Look at this whole crew right here. I love what I'm seeing here. Welcome one and all to NetApp Insight 2024, the premier tech festival of the year, happening right here. My name is Mario Armstrong, and I'm so excited to be back with you once again at the MGM Grand as we kick off Insight 2024. Now, for those of you who I have not met yet, by the way, let's fix that. Let's make sure that we meet. I'm an NBC technology correspondent, Emmy Award winner, columnist for Entrepreneur Magazine, and I host a podcast called Wake Up and Level Up. Super excited to be here, and I'm really been fascinated by the people that I've been meeting along the way. The first person I met was in the elevator from Austria, which was incredible. So all of you that have come from across the globe, let me hear you make some noise. And greetings to all the folks that are watching us on our live stream right now. Yes, that's right. Even those that can't be here with us in person will be able to still hear and enjoy all of this week's Keynote's presentations because they're all are available to watch online. Along with what you heard from Nick earlier, Snapshot, which is our live post-game show that's hosted by Nick Howell with recaps and commentary on all the day's content. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. Right now, we're kicking off NetApp Insight 2024 with a blockbuster keynote, a deep dive into winning in the era of data and intelligence. And there's no better person to take us on that journey than the CEO of NetApp himself. People of Insight, please make a big welcome to the headliner stage for George Kurian.
Thank you. Thank you, Mario, and a warm welcome to all of you. Welcome to NetApp Insight. I want to thank you for the great work that you do with us, the trust and commitment you place in us, and especially for the time you spend with us here and back where we do the work that's important to you. If you're here for the first time, I hope you have an amazing experience. We have so much innovation and customer experience to share with you. Customers teaching you about how they use our technology, and all of our technologists demonstrating the hard work that we've done over the past year. And if you're here again, having been here before, thank you for coming back. This is going to be the best Insight ever. Before we discuss our strategy and innovation portfolio, I want to go back to last year and share a bit about what we told you then. You see, last year, we told you that we were the data infrastructure company and that we were integrating intelligence into our data infrastructure. And what we told you about the world that we operated in was that there were three keys to success. That digital and data-driven leaders were expanding their competitive advantage relative to those that weren't. We said that to be a data-driven leader, you needed to have a cohesive data strategy and organization. Operationally, you needed to treat data as a product. And technologically, you needed the foundations of a modern data architecture that was built on an intelligent data infrastructure, which allowed you the flexibility to transform the parts of your architecture that you needed to transform, while having the benefits of integration and evolution in the parts of your architecture that needed continuity. And we told you that NetApp was delivering the intelligent data infrastructure, combining unified data storage for any type of data, anywhere you choose to store it and access it, by any method, block, file, and object, for any workload. Truly unified data storage. We talked about the fact that we were investing in intelligence services. Intelligence being built into the infrastructure and intelligence about the data that resides on that infrastructure. And you will hear enormous amounts at this conference about our progress in that dimension. And we talked about solutions that integrate these two fundamental underpinnings with the world's most important applications and platforms, giving you transformational flexibility and simplicity at scale for all of your data, for all of your infrastructure, and all of the workloads that run on that infrastructure. So before I talk about the year ahead, let's talk about what has changed during the past year, because this has been a momentous year. Over the past year, we have seen enormous progress in the capability to understand and analyze data. Artificial intelligence made progress over many years, stepwise, understanding handwriting recognition, and then speech recognition, and then image and object recognition. But over the past few years, we have seen a breathtaking acceleration in its capabilities. It is almost capable of being able to understand, without human involvement, the domains in which it operates, as well as to independently switch domains. And the pace of improvement is absolutely profound. Today, you are able to build rich, immersive experiences, combining multimodal capabilities, as well as, importantly, be able to understand all of the data that resides in your enterprise. Not just the transactional data, but all of the unstructured data, which is typically 85 to 90% of your enterprise. The conversations across your teams, the conversations with your employees, the design blueprints that are typically locked away in documents of various types, the underwriting and risk policies that are actually implemented in the way you serve your customers. All of that data can now be structured and analyzed using the tools at your disposal. We are now in the era of data and intelligence. So now let's talk about what has not changed since the last year. What has not changed is the importance of data. It's actually become even more important, as we will talk about, how it's managed, protected, governed, and optimized. Because data is the foundation for intelligence. Without data, there's no intelligence. And we are in the third stage of the modern era of data collection and analysis. The first stage was to simply digitize data production so that you could actually take the outputs of business processes and make them computerized records. The second era was to keep a longitudinal history of that data. For a single business process, you could track trends and history across timelines. The third era, matching the capabilities of the tools that are available, is about unifying your data, analyzing a wide scope of data so that you can get differential insight. And to bring, for example, all of the data about your customers into one unified landscape. To bring all of the information about your suppliers and partners into one unified landscape. We talked about the importance of data as a product. It is even more true today. What has also not changed is NetApp's continued innovation at our fastest pace ever to help you build the intelligent data infrastructures that you need to thrive in the era of data and intelligence. This year, we broadened our all-flash storage portfolio. with a new A-series lineup, expanded C-series and ASA products. We have significantly expanded the range of capabilities in cloud storage. We have woven intelligence for security and privacy and governance of your data into our infrastructure. And we have made it easy to consume all of this innovation the way you want. You see, at NetApp, data is at the heart of everything we do because we are the intelligent data infrastructure company. So now let's talk about the work that we've done and continue to do and how it will help you in the days ahead. Let's talk a bit about how we got here in the first place to this intersection point of data and intelligence. It began with the human interest in understanding our behavior and the behavior of populations around the world, as well as the need to codify those human behaviors. You see, the first large data set that allowed humans to understand how we behaved with each other was actually the census. And the first census was recorded in prehistoric times in Babylonia, well before the birth of Christ. The first modern census was implemented in Europe in the early 1700s to understand where populations were and to be able to tax them. Another important capability was the use of mathematical tools, now aided by computation, so that you could normalize and standardize all of this data so that you could first understand human behavior, draw insight from it, and then be able to predict the future. You see, the era of data and intelligence had its roots many, many years ago. And this has been a part of an enduring trend of progress in the amount of data that you can capture, in the tools that can be used to analyze that data, and the ability to draw insight from them. And so what I will tell you is that we stand at the juncture of two profoundly important capabilities that allows us to turn disruption into opportunity. And where we stand today is that we need this technology more than ever before. You see, the Nobel Prize-winning economist Michael Spence recently wrote a very thoughtful piece where he talked about the fact that the economic drivers that supported our growth over the last 3 decades face profound challenge, particularly the supply-side productivity gains that we have been able to all experience across the globe because of the emerging market economies providing ample labor pools is going to be dissipated over the next decade. We also have aging populations in the advanced economies that form 75% of the worldwide GDP. So we desperately need a tool to drive productivity gains, a general purpose tool like artificial intelligence. And we are blessed that supporting that tool are the underlying capabilities, enormous growth of data, and extraordinary progress in the pace of capability improvements of these tools. So let's hear about the opportunities that AI creates. You know, the AI opportunity is recorded in enormous numbers because of the nature of the tools being powerful, being general purpose, and being accessible by everybody using natural language interfaces. It is expected to deliver 50% automation and efficiency improvements for large classes of the work that we do. It is expected to transform the way we interact with each other. And more people are rapidly using these tools to derive data analysis and insights. A simple number will put it in perspective. $7 trillion of annual labor productivity improvements over the next decade. To put that in context, the worldwide GDP is about $100 trillion a year. The US GDP is about $25 trillion a year. A 7% productivity gain is astoundingly large. And to do it, not only the largest corporations should be able to take advantage of AI and data, but also every school and every hospital and every human being in every part of the world needs to have fair and easy access to these capabilities. And what you will hear from us and others in the industry over the next few days is how we are making that possible, how we are working with the industry to remove the challenges to the adoption of this technology. And so I want to invite first, through video, we'll have one of the industry leaders who was responsible to help catalyze the AI revolution across so many markets, so many countries, and so many parts of the global population. We have worked with Microsoft for many years to build joint solutions combining our technologies and the powerful tools that Microsoft has to offer. And I want to have you watch a video from Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft. Let's roll the video.
Thank you so much, George. It's great to join you at NetApp Insight. We are in the midst of a massive AI platform shift, and it's the companies that are data-driven and AI-ready that will be best positioned to capture the immense opportunity ahead. That's why our long-standing partnership with NetApp is so important, and together we have delivered industry-leading data services and helped thousands of customers move their most mission-critical workloads to Azure. And it's great to see how we are bringing NetApp solutions together with our AI platforms and tools, including Azure AI and Microsoft 365 Copilot, to help our mutual customers drive their AI transformation. Thank you very much for the partnership, and enjoy the rest of the event.
The work that we do to help you succeed could never be done by us alone. And it is with that humility and the recognition that we can bring unique capabilities and partner deeply with the world's leaders that allows us to stand here and guarantee you the benefits of your data with the world's best intelligence. Azure NetApp Files, the unrivaled work of co-engineering between NetApp and Microsoft, was generally available in May 2019. And now, to mark the 5-year anniversary of Azure NetApp Files general availability, please welcome the President of Azure Core, Girish Bavlani. Hi, Girish.
Hi, George.
Hi, Girish. Welcome to NetApp Insight. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. And thanks to your team for the incredible partnership that we have had over the years. It's really a privilege to be here with you and your team, and it's a privilege to be here talking to our joint customers. I'm super excited about everything that we are doing together as we go forward in this era of AI.
You know, we've worked with your teams for a long time, and we're always interested, what do you at Microsoft see as the benefits of the partnership with NetApp, and what do our mutual customers tell you are the benefits of the collaboration?
Yeah, I'm super proud of Azure NetApp Files. Not only was it its only kind of service when it was launched, but even today, it ends up being the largest and the most well-established NetApp service in the public cloud. And what our customers really have been using and continue to use Azure NetApp Files for is moving their mission-critical workloads into the cloud. In particular, when the workload is super demanding, like Oracle or SAP, Azure NetApp File really kind of shines. Let me talk to you about one of our customers, joint customers, Coca-Cola Bottlers of Japan. So they have one of the largest SAP DB2 estates in the world, and they wanted to move it to the cloud. And they chose Azure NetApp Files, and they were able to do this migration in 5 months, just super quick, with 0 operational downtime. And 1 month into the migration, they saw 30% improvement in their TCO, 40% improvement in their application performance, and a whopping 90% improvement in their DR time. So huge success. And this is a good example of what all our customers tell us. When they want to see scalability, cost effectiveness, performance, and a secure data regime, they use Azure NetApp Files.
Thank you. Awesome story. Let's pivot a little bit to the future. We're integrating our technologies with the range of Microsoft data and AI applications. How can our partnership help companies tap into the power of AI in this era of data and intelligence?
Yeah, like Satya said, AI is going to fundamentally change the way companies and we all do business. And so it's super important and urgent for companies to be able to exploit the power of AI. And what they need is an easy way to do it. So to be able to do this effectively, you need a performant, secure AI platform, a way to access your unstructured data of all types, all temperatures in a cost-effective way, and an application platform that can help you gain the insights from the data and realize the value to the customers. So the work that our companies are doing together actually brings all of this together. So we are integrating the whole Azure AI stack and the whole Azure application stack with Azure NetApp Files, ONTAP, Cloud Volumes, and that basically lets our customers be able to use the leading models, have APIs to do training, inferencing, and of course, access to all the data that really powers the AI. Again, let me share a story of another customer. An automotive company is wanting to or has moved their autonomous driving workload onto Azure. Now, they are doing simulation, inferencing, and training. So when they were moving the workload, for autonomous driving, it's a huge, huge data set. On top of that huge data set, they wanted to improve their deployment and also increase their development agility. And they chose Azure NetApp Files and were able to move onto the Azure cloud by using the large volumes, which let them compress their data sets into the smallest number of volumes possible and achieving their goals of improving the agility as well as deployment time. So great story, and I think all the customers here can also take advantage of the same thing.
Awesome story, combining data and intelligence, right? And so I'll just ask one final question, which is, what part of our work together are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, just staying on the theme of AI, I'm super excited by what we can do together to bring AI services, copilots, and data together. Personally, I'm a huge user and fan of the Microsoft Teams Copilot, which automatically takes notes, summarizes the meeting, action items, and for me personally is a huge productivity enhancer. So by the work that we do together, we can bring this capability to all our customers so that they can build intelligent AI assistants and copilots for their applications.
Awesome. Super excited. Girish, thank you for the partnership. Looking forward to another amazing year together.
Thank you.
Girish Bablani. We are super excited about the ability to bring the most sophisticated AI tools together with your data and to be able to help you transform disruption into opportunity. I want to take a minute and just share a little bit about what are the risks with AI. We talked about the opportunities. Now let's talk about the risks, right? Any powerful tool that's available to all of mankind has risks. Some of that's inherent in the tools, and some of that is inherent in the way we humans use those tools. And AI has its risks. You know, one of the risks is that when you group data and try to draw insight from it, there is the tendency to have bias or to have the wrongful conclusions. In fact, some of the underlying mathematical capabilities that forms the foundation of many of the advanced analytic tools, clustering and regression analysis, was invented by a gentleman named Francis Galton, who is also, unfortunately, the creator of eugenics, the foundation of most modern racist ideologies. And so there is inherent in the nature of the work that we do some risks. Second, because data is important as the foundation for which AI operates, there are more people going after your data than ever before. If you look at the growth rates of data-focused attacks like ransomware, it is up 70% year on year. And over $1 billion of ransom have been paid out over the last year alone, according to independent analysts. And there are concerns about privacy and upcoming regulations. You see, it's important that you are ready to deal with these risks, to manage them, and to be ready to allow your customers to have confidence in the AI and data implementations that you run your business upon. And so we want to tell you a little bit about what it takes to win in this era. We talked about how we got here. We talked about the opportunities and the profound need that we have as a global population to embrace these technologies. We talked about some of the risks. So now let's talk about what it takes to win. When everybody has these enormously powerful tools available for use, using natural language, easy-to-use interfaces, what do you think are the keys to success? The first is your data and your data strategy and the way you provide access to it. Your unique enterprise data, wide in scope, unified across time and types, high quality, well-governed, first and most important. Second, the ability to use the AI tools with that well-managed data to draw insight. And the way that you are able to calibrate that is your deep understanding of your industry and the domains in which you operate. When everybody has the same base level of capability, your deep understanding of your industry is never more important. The third is an agile operating model to test, learn, and adapt so that you can pick a couple of domains and move these projects from the data science lab to production and to learn in return. And finally, a data ecosystem that complements your business ecosystem. You know, we've always talked about the fact that you need complementary capabilities and value delivery systems in your business ecosystem. What you now need is complementary data capabilities and complementary data sources that enrich your data set so that you can apply the intelligence capabilities that are available for you. A data ecosystem to complement your business ecosystem. And so I will tell you more about what we do to help you in these areas of trying to win. NetApp is focused on the first area, your data and your data strategy, and the tools that we can give you to make it easy to manage your data. But before I get into that, I want to tell you a little bit about how we at NetApp have made progress by unifying our data and how that has helped us to accelerate our business impact, our decision-making, and the progress in our business. And I'm going to roll a video by Mike Berry, our Chief Financial Officer, telling you about NetApp's own data-driven transformation. Let's roll the video.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Berry, NetApp's Chief Financial Officer. It's great to see so many of you out in Vegas for our Insight Conference, and I hope you're having an awesome time. This week, you've heard about being data-driven and AI-ready can have an immense impact on your business. The productivity, the analysis, and the innovation available to your team can all increase exponentially. I'm here today to tell you that I believe that's right on target. Like many of you, we have undergone a significant transformation at NetApp, and I want to tell you about what we did and the outcomes. When I joined NetApp several years ago, we were operating as 3 different silos in terms of our data reporting: our storage business, our cloud business, and our Keystone business. This greatly impacted our operational efficiencies in a few ways. Number 1, our unmanaged data stores meant people were getting different answers to the same questions. Number 2, individual analysis of data meant we couldn't scale insights to the entire enterprise. And lastly, our legacy platforms couldn't process the increasing size of our data fast enough or support the new AI workloads. This clearly was not going to be sustainable as we continued to scale NetApp. So, George tasked us to help drive better alignment across our organization and enforce standardization and integration. Today, we have one data source that informs our entire business. Everyone is making decisions from the same set of data. As I like to say, we have one version of the truth. And the impact has been huge. Latency has been halved. We get to the right insights faster. Data hops have been reduced by 70%. We have better quality and more compliant data across every aspect of our business. Redundant data duplication has been reduced by 65%. This really helps with having a single source of truth across the entire enterprise. And perhaps most importantly, we are more agile and can innovate with new technologies like AI much more quickly and bring you, our customers, what you need from us to drive your business forward. So from everyone at NetApp, we absolutely believe that helping you unify your data will be a game changer for your business. We hope this gives you some useful information as you leverage intelligent data infrastructure to chart your own data-driven and AI initiatives. Thank you, everyone, for your time and your support of NetApp. And I hope you have a great time in Vegas. Enjoy the rest of Insight, and best of luck on your data journey.
I can tell you the benefits that we've seen under Mike's leadership around our data-driven business transformation have been profound. We can make better decisions. We can understand our business more intimately than we've ever before. You know, we talked about how NetApp is focused on helping you deal with your data strategy and change the challenges that you face with AI. So let's talk a little bit about what are the challenges that you might face as you embrace AI. You see, there's been a lot of discussion in the industry about the capabilities of the algorithms that form the foundation of large language models, for example. And there are brilliant scientists and engineers working to make those algorithms much, much, much better. What we have observed, conversely, is that there's little attention being paid to the readiness of your data to be used with AI. And we've also seen is that those that have well-governed and managed data, like regulated industries and life sciences and parts of enterprises where the data has been, for historical reasons, better managed, are able to derive benefits and use large language models transformationally much, much quickly. So let's talk about the data challenges. Because to summarize, a big part of the AI challenge is a data challenge. How do I find, select, and unify the data I need to build an application? How do I govern sensitive data so that an app that uses AI cannot provide the data in a way that's inappropriate for a given user or purpose? How do I ensure that my data is fresh and accurate so that my models don't drift because of stale data, and so that my customers are always given the correct information using the latest breaking changes? Data challenge is a big part of the AI challenge. The second is that AI is complicated, costly, and time-consuming. And so let's talk a bit about that. Today, AI is being implemented by only some of the largest organizations, and it is being done as a silo with specialized infrastructure and completely disconnected from the data systems and operational systems where all of the data and intelligence that forms the foundation of intelligence in your enterprise exists. And that is a familiar problem. Because when we stood up here 10 years ago, cloud and on-premises data centers had the same chasm that exists today between your AI systems and your data systems. And what we told you then was that we at NetApp were going to work with the leaders in the industry to build a data fabric that makes the use of your data across all the public clouds possible and easy and seamless, and that we would integrate the public cloud into your IT architecture and operations so that you could take advantage of the flexibility, the agility, the innovation possibilities that exists on the leading public clouds while keeping your data secure and well managed. We told you that we would deliver the intelligent data fabric for the hybrid cloud era. And today, we are making you that same commitment, that very same commitment for the age of data and intelligence, that we will build you the intelligent data infrastructure that builds a bridge across the chasm that exists between your AI systems and your data systems, that allows you to manage your data in the way that it is supposed to be managed so that you can leverage it for insight and competitive advantage. Today, we are making that same promise to you, that over the next few years, you will have with NetApp the best intelligent data infrastructure for AI, bar none. I promise you that. So you might ask us, so how do we plan to do that? And let's begin by talking about how a modern AI stack works. This is a picture of a canonical analytics and AI stack. Whether it's generative AI or advanced analytics or predictive AI, it all follows the same steps, which is you collect data from a variety of sources, then you spend time conditioning it, unifying it, normalizing it, building structure on top of unstructured data, and then feed it into algorithms. And you take the output of those algorithms, and you either put a human-in-the-loop check or another check, machine-based check, before you feed it into users that deliver on the missions of your organization. 80% of the time is spent in that bucket called data conditioning. And you might say, wow, why is it that you spend 80% of your time on data conditioning? And it is because if you double-click on that bucket, it is a very complex picture with multiple steps. And NetApp's mission is to help you simplify all of that dramatically by bringing AI to your data wherever and however you want in a way that is intelligent, agile, attainable, and secure. Bringing AI to your data in a way that is intelligent, agile, attainable, and secure. And to do this, NetApp is delivering 3 transformative data innovations for AI. We will help you understand and manage your data for AI, bring AI to your data wherever and however, and deliver the power of AI efficiently and securely for your business and your customers. And you might ask, so how are we doing that? We do this by eliminating data silos and giving you a unified, structured view of your data assets so that you can easily explore, understand, and prepare your data for AI, all while leveraging ONTAP's proven resiliency, multi-tenancy, security, and robust data management features. Second, seamlessly deploy AI on data in place, on premises, on the public clouds, or anywhere in between. We will enable you to confidently scale your infrastructures with cutting-edge performance, effortless scaling when you need it, and most effective cost, and allow you to utilize your existing AI ecosystem tooling while leveraging NetApp AI features like integrated data versioning, model traceability, and highly efficient data retrieval for training and inferencing. And then the third, leverage policy-based classification, governance, and security that follow your data through the AI lifecycle, not just once, but all the time. We will enable you to have automated AI data change detection and updates so that your models will always have the freshest data and the most accurate data anytime, anywhere. Super proud of the work that our team has done to build the best underlying infrastructure for AI. You will see a robust data engine for AI and intelligent data services for AI. And to just see that, let me introduce to you Krish Vitaldevara, Senior Vice President, responsible for NetApp's ONTAP software group and our AI technology portfolio. Please welcome Krish to the stage.
Thank you, George, and hello, everyone. How do you take this amazing vision George talked about and make it real? We do that by anchoring that vision in the deep understanding of the customer needs and getting those customer insights baked into the vision. We talked to 1,000+ customers. Many of you are in the room today. We talked and spent a lot of time deep diving with 100+ customers. We talked to tens of AI analysts who spend all their time thinking about and covering advances in AI. We used all of that to build a picture of common customer AI environment. And believe me when I say it, it's a complex picture. In one training cycle, the data gets copied over 7+ times. There are thousands of workflows, all of them copying, tracking the changes to the data, and 13+ tools used across the board. The vector databases explode 8 to 10 times as you go through this AI data and model lifecycle. You need to maintain privacy and compliance and security throughout this lifecycle. Our goal is to help you all drastically simplify this day-to-day complexity and significantly accelerate the desired outcomes. We want you all to walk out of this conference fully trusting NetApp to deliver and remove that complexity for you in those AI projects. So when we look across verticals, media and entertainment, financials, healthcare, EDA, and more, the customers' asks of NetApp intelligent data infrastructure have been pretty consistent. They want an infrastructure that scales economically while letting them fully leverage the AI-accelerated compute. They want an integrated data engine that can make their data AI-ready and bring AI closer to the data wherever and however they choose. The ability to access, move, process, and manage this data in a secure, private, and compliant way. They want this AI infrastructure to be inherently hybrid multi-cloud and is well integrated into the ecosystem so that they have the freedom to choose on their terms, right? It's all of you asking us that you want the freedom to choose on your terms. You have also asked us to provide you with an end-to-end solution that's so simple, all of us can feel like we are AI specialists, right? Okay, let's see how we can make that happen. So George just talked about how we plan to innovate in AI by solving the data problem that requires you to bust the data silos, that requires you to make your enterprise data AI ready, and that requires you to bring AI closer to the data, which means we have to innovate across the entire stack: infrastructure, data engine, and intelligent data services. Today, I will give you a sneak peek into our vision on how that innovation across the intelligent data services and the AI engine work hand in hand to take that complexity away. Tomorrow, I will go into detail on the best infrastructure for AI and the interplay of the data engine and the intelligent data services. Okay, so let's see that in action. First, we start with your data, anywhere and everywhere it resides. You already know the value of ONTAP in powering your data centers around the world, on premises or in any of our 1P native offerings in Microsoft or Amazon or Google. So we are building that unified global metadata namespace. This will provide you with an easily synthesized, single, unified global view of the data. You'll be able to put structure over this data. You'll be able to synthesize your data across all your data assets and have all of that metadata seamlessly brought together to create a complete view of your entire NetApp data assets. File or object, structure or unstructured, ONTAP or storage grid. So let me demonstrate what you can do when you bring that power to your fingertips. So most of you will recognize this as BlueXP, our hybrid multi-cloud control plane. We have pre-populated this with various ONTAP data sources. And we built the new Data Explorer capability directly within BlueXP so that you get to explore all your data using the simplicity and familiarity of BlueXP. Within the Data Explorer, you are able to see at a high level what working environments are being scanned. You get to see how many files, how many object streams, how much storage has been synthesized, and what's your global metadata namespace made of. You can go directly and start exploring and searching your data using natural language queries. For today's demo, let's put ourselves in the shoes of a data scientist in the healthcare industry. Here, you will see all the files related to the AI project that they are working on. Because we are using AI, we can actually go in and quickly find all the files that actually have content that is about or related to diabetes. Of course, you can look up by file names and strings, but the power of Explorer goes way beyond that. You can also set a variety of additional filters based on the metadata. In this case, we have set the filter to only include the files that have been accessed in the last 3 years. Let's double-click on an individual file and see what are the specifics of this metadata we are talking about. You will see common file information or file attributes like location and size. You will also see user attributes and system attributes. You can also use extended attributes. You will see information we have synthesized based on our data classifiers, like analyzing, identifying any PII information within the file. You can drill directly into the permissions of the file so that if there is any PII information, you get to choose based on your policy posture to whether to include the file or not, right? This is incredibly important in determining which models and which inferencing workflows have access to what data. So you're taking your investments in security, policy, permissions, all the way from bottom of the stack to the top and to the prompts. With the right permissions, you can see the preview of the file right in the Data Explorer. You will notice that there are some text fields in here that have PII data. And via a configurable policy, you can automatically anonymize multiple of these fields that are displayed. OK, so we have built a unified global namespace with a powerful natural language data explorer on top. What's the tie to AI? OK, let me show you a neat trick. I'll go ahead and select the files that we have found through our natural language query and filters. Let's add these files into an existing or new collection. The data collection in the enterprise data are the data that's used by the models for inferencing prompts. This is how you make enterprise data available for retrieval augmented generation or RAG pipelines. This new data collection can be static, as in given a set of files, make that a collection, or even better, dynamic, by using the query and filters to create a constantly updated collection of data. Given all the changes are tracked in our global metadata namespace through technologies like SnapDiff, we can instantly update the RAG enterprise data collection as things change. Data and AI operations are expensive compute, power, and just the raw storage. So the ability to operate only on the differences is incredibly important. You want to do expensive data and AI operations only on the changes and not on all the files all the time. OK, now that we have created our dynamic data collection, let's put it to good use. We're going to deploy this data collection directly to a NetApp AI data node or NetApp AI pod or your choice of any inferencing system. So let's choose one of NetApp AI data engine nodes to deploy this data collection to. Once deployed, we take care of everything. Remember, we are removing complexity here. You can hop right in and begin using it for data experiments. And if you're an API person like me, don't worry, we have you covered. We provide you with a rich set of APIs so that you can point this collection to any data science tool of your choice to access on demand. So with this kind of powerful natural language-driven data discovery tools, with the right APIs, we are transforming data discovery of our largest customers, including some of you in the room. Your enterprise data is now AI ready and is integrated into your AI data pipelines with ease. Not only that, you can ensure that the data you're using for your AI applications is always accurate. Remember, George talked about the changes and keeping the data fresh and accurate. It's an incredibly big part of the value prop here. The security and policy posture of your enterprise data that you have spent decades building can be inherited and expanded as you go through your AI and model lifecycle. It includes model training and tuning, right? So we will not only make your data enterprise AI ready, but we will also bring AI to your data by integrating all of these data smarts in place wherever the data is. Okay, so let me quickly recap. As George told you, we are delivering 3 transformative data innovations for AI. The first one is helping you effectively understand your enterprise data and letting you manage it by providing structure over unstructured data. The second one, we are bringing AI to your data by making your data AI ready in place through inferencing. We are also delivering the power of AI efficiently and securely through ONTAP's proven data lifecycle features. So, tomorrow morning at the keynote, we'll take an even deeper dive into the product innovations directly related to our AI infrastructure vision. We also have deep dives, meet the expert sessions, customer testimonials, and solution demos. So please take advantage of those. With our intelligent data infrastructure, NetApp is ready to help you on this transformative AI journey. So let's bring back George. Thank you.
Hey, Chris. Super excited. All of the work that we've been doing around building the best data infrastructure for AI, integrating intelligence about your data and intelligence being built into your infrastructure. And tomorrow, you will hear how we're building the best distributed systems architecture that ever existed. So go to the technical sessions tomorrow. I want to thank Krish for his leadership of our AI journey so far, and you will see him more tomorrow. I think one of the things that Krish talked about is that you could apply these capabilities not just for the AI landscape, but for all of your unstructured data, whether it's for EDA workloads, or whether it's for media and entertainment use cases, or where you want to be ready for the era of data and intelligence by unifying all of your data, structured and unstructured, wide in scope, unified in type and time. One of the things that Krish talked about is that having intelligence about your data allows you to be ready for the era of AI. And one of the things that I shared with you is that we have observed that industries and teams that are particularly good at structuring their data and managing it effectively are well positioned for the use of the transformational power of generative AI and AI in general. One of those industries that we have been profoundly humbled to be a part of is the pharmaceutical and life sciences industry, where the history of building disciplined data management allows them to apply the tools of artificial intelligence today to drive differentiated insight and to make the world a better place. Johnson & Johnson is an organization redefining healthcare, connecting the best of health and care for every provider, every patient, everyone. They're leveraging state-of-the-art, rigorous science, data, and technology to address the most complex diseases of our time, including oncology, immunology, neuroscience, and others. we're going to talk to one of their leading practitioners, one of those industry transformers herself. But before we do that, let's roll a quick video.
AI is a frontier full of possibilities, and Johnson & Johnson is imagining all the amazing things it can do. The company is committed to redefining healthcare, connecting the best of health and care for every provider, every patient, for everyone. That's why Johnson & Johnson recognizes the potential of AI and has integrated it across a wide range of applications in pharmaceuticals, biotechnology, and medical technology. Every team is required to have its own Gen AI project to stay ahead of the curve, the kind of innovative goal that requires innovative technology. J&J has embraced a hybrid cloud AI strategy, supported by NetApp On Tap and other solutions. The shift has been transformational. Their Domino Nexus AI environment has lowered costs and optimized GPU usage. The seamless movement of data on-prem and in the cloud is also accelerating R&D, ensuring Johnson & Johnson won't be slowing down anytime soon when it comes to improving health and care for all.
Please welcome Director of Data Science at Johnson & Johnson, one of those real innovators, a practitioner and a transformer, who has experience with machine learning and generative AI, large language models and graph databases, and any other fancy term you might use. She combines these capabilities with data and clinical trials to accelerate drug discovery and make lives better. Please welcome Monica Jain. Monica, welcome to NetApp Insight. Thank you for the work that you've done with us and for the work that you do to make the human condition better. Tell us a bit about your role at Johnson & Johnson and how J&J has been using AI, and what's your future vision for AI?
For sure. So as the Director of R&D Data Science team at J&J, I lead our data strategy and Gen AI initiatives. My role specifically involves driving the integration of advanced AI and data science methodologies to transform how we manage and utilize the data across the organization. You ask about how at J&J we have been leveraging AI. So it's to enhance our decision-making, optimizing R&D processes, and accelerate data discovery and the development, right? So how AI is at the core of our efforts to bring innovative solutions to the patient faster is where we are looking forward to at J&J.
We are super excited at the possibilities for personalized medicine and the ability to build really effective, clinical trials, processes, and methodologies, because we know we live in a world that needs that. What challenges do you face when optimizing your data for AI, and how have you tried to solve them?
Yeah, so optimizing our data for AI specifically presents several challenges, right from particularly around data quality, integration of those different data sources, accessibility, and especially governance. Being in the healthcare industry, it is very important, right? At J&J, we deal with diverse data set coming from multiple different sources, including clinical trials, research studies, and real-world data, right? So our primary challenge, how to ensure that the data is clean, standardized, and ready for AI consumption. It's an essential piece when we are talking about AI. Poor data quality can lead into significantly impact the performance of all our AI models, right? Leading to inaccurate outcomes, which can impact our patients' lives, right? So it is very important to have the standard and clean data. Another key challenge certainly is the data silos. So we have data coming from different departments, systems, integrating it to the unified, accessible format of AI application can be very complex, especially in the R&D world, right? Additionally, what we are also facing the challenge around privacy, data privacy, and security, especially in a highly regulated industry like, any industry, healthcare industries. That adds another layer of complexity. So which is like, to address these challenges, we are trying to implement hybrid solutions, which is how hybrid cloud strategy that allows us to leverage the strength of both on-prem and cloud environments. Yeah.
It's amazing, for an industry where the data quality is so important and the privacy and security is so important. I'm super impressed with the fact that you'll have thought about a hybrid architecture so that you can accelerate innovation. How does hybrid cloud play a role in your AI infrastructure strategy?
Our strategy for AI, infrastructure at Johnson & Johnson is centered around flexibility, scalability, and especially security, which are crucial for supporting the diverse and evolving data needs for the data scientist and AI applications. Cost is another area where we are focusing on keeping our infrastructure divided, which basically we have adopted a hybrid cloud approach as a backbone of our AI infrastructure, allowing us to harness the benefits of both, right, private and public clouds. This strategy also is enabling us to optimize resources like manage cost, as what I'm saying, manage cost effectively because in cloud it can go, uncontrolled, and ensure data compliance while maintaining the agility to how we can scale AI initiative very quickly, right? The whole hybrid cloud model plays a very pivotal role in our strategy by providing the flexibility to deploy our workloads in the most suitable environment as different use cases may require. Yeah.
We've talked about the world being hybrid for a long time, and AI seems to be the quintessential use case that drives hybrid adoption because of the pace of innovation of applications. You don't want to fall behind, right? And so, how do you see NetApp helping you with these decisions as you think about what do you want to keep on-prem, what do you want to keep in the cloud, the flexibility that we enable you to have?
Yeah, before that, where we can actually reach out to NetApp, the hybrid cloud strategy at Johnson & Johnson, we are also trying to evaluate by ourselves that what we should keep in on-prem, what are the data and workloads to determine the optimal placement between on-prem and the cloud environment. That's where I think we are taking help of NetApp for sure to identify, how we can secure our data. For example, the highly sensitive data such as clinical trial information, patient records, for example, and any other critical data subject to stringent regulatory requirements, we prefer to keep it on-premise, right? And this approach allows us to maintain very tight control over security. Compliance and data governance is the key piece, ensuring that we meet all our industry standards and protect our patients' privacy. On the other hand, that we are moving less sensitive, high volume, and compute-intensive workloads to the cloud. So this includes our data used in large-scale AI to model training and analytics, and machine learning experiments where the scalability, flexibility, and our advanced computational power, the cloud provides significant advantage. NetApp, we are utilizing NetApp to help certainly to manage cost, to have divided loads over here and there. Data mobility is the key piece, is what we are, but there are multiple such solutions we are trying to look into.
Awesome. It's so gratifying to see the work that we started a long time ago with this belief that you want to unify and manage your data and make your data infrastructure, hybrid cloud and well integrated, is coming to play out for all of you. So thank you for your insights. Thanks for the great work you do and for the help you've given us to learn more about your business and to be able to innovate on your behalf.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm so humbled by the work that we are able to help organizations like Johnson & Johnson do. And we would never be able to do that without the humility to learn from them and the willingness to partner with others that help build a better solution for the customer. Monica mentioned the use of NetApp services on the cloud to help her accomplish her data-driven AI outcomes. And so let me introduce another guest who knows a thing or two about cloud and AI. Please welcome Matt Wood, Vice President of Artificial Intelligence Products, Amazon Web Services. Hi, Matt.
Hello there.
Welcome to NetApp Insight. I remember the first NetApp presence at AWS reInvent in 2012, where I was at the booth, and we were so excited to see how the partnership between us and AWS could help really solve customer problems. You know, we've spent a lot of time working with you all around a variety of capabilities, and 3 years ago, we announced the general availability of Amazon's FSx for NetApp ONTAP service. AWS has a comprehensive AI strategy all the way from chips to applications. Could you please describe for our clients what are the most important AI use cases you see people taking on and your strategy for AI?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I was there in 2012 as well, so I actually walked past your booth, so thank you. It's a pleasure to see you all. Good evening, everybody. It's my opinion, and I think I probably share it with a lot of you, that generative AI is probably the single largest shift in how we're going to interact with data and information and each other, probably since the advent of the very, very earliest internet. And organizations that invested in the early internet, like Amazon.com 30 years ago, went on to experience pretty tremendous growth in the intervening 30 years. And it's my guess that all of you that are investing in generative AI today are going to experience multiple Amazons of growth in the next 30 years, maybe even sooner. The big use cases that we see kind of fit into three main buckets. The first is those that really want to get into the weeds of building and optimizing their own large language models, machine learning models, and artificial intelligence models. And there we make available a pretty broad set of accelerated chips, some from our partners like NVIDIA, some that we build ourselves at Amazon, called Trainium and Inferentia, designed to accelerate the inner loop of machine learning for training and for predictions, and to deliver by far the lowest cost per dollar and the lowest cost per watt for machine learning training on AWS. And that's really where part of FSx comes in. You really want to be able to get the data onto those chips, onto those accelerators as quickly as possible to be able to build these remarkable models and to be able to use them with your own data when you're running predictions against them. So that's deep in the weeds for the data science teams. We also make available a service that we call Amazon Bedrock, which makes available a range of different pre-trained models, such as anybody can pick up a model and start building it inside their own applications going forwards. So we believe that there's no one model to rule them all. So we have a range of 32 different foundation models. We make it super easy to evaluate them and pick the one that works well for your organization and for your use case. And the goal there is to really be able to fit your use case against the model. And there you can lean into the model's advantage, whether it is price performance or latency or intelligence, and find and mix and match the right model for your mission. And then finally, we make available a set of applications for those that don't want to futz around with models. They just want to be able to use the application with their knowledge workers, with their support teams, whatever it might be. And there you can just turn them on and start using them with your own data very quickly and very, very easily. So those are the three main use cases that we see.
You know, we launched Amazon FSx for NetApp ONTAP in September 21, and we are seeing accelerating joint innovation, service growth, and records for the service each quarter. What do customers tell you about why they choose our joint solution?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the number one thing we hear time and again is just security. You know, there is a lot of customers, when we're working with them, when they start along their generative AI journey, they have this schism in their mind. And I can understand where it comes from, that in order to be successful with generative AI, they have to make some negative trade-offs as it pertains to the confidentiality and security and privacy of their data. And what we found is that working with FSx and ONTAP, and the work that we're doing at AWS, that just isn't the case. We do not use any of the data that flows through our paid AI services to improve the underlying models, and you get full visibility over what data gets used where. And so it's just a very different model from some other folks. And so security, it's job zero for us at Amazon. It's job zero for all of you. And so that is really where it kind of begins and ends for a lot of folks. We also see just the raw performance being incredibly important, both for model training, when you want to be able to get very, very large data sets onto the accelerators to train the models, but increasingly for inference as these workloads start to move into from prototypes into production. The majority of the workloads actually start to move into inference. You may train your models once a month, but you're going to run tens of thousands or even millions of predictions against those models every single day. And so having the right way of getting the right information with the right security, with the right performance characteristics into those models to start working with them, super, super important. And then building on that, the final piece is just resilience. These workloads, as they start to move from early experiments and toys that people get very excited about to workloads that are proving to be very, very useful, that move to the very center of a lot of organizations, like we were hearing from J&J. Resiliency of those workloads is paramount because they're going to sit at the very core of the business. So those three pieces are what we do most often.
Couldn't have a better endorsement of our technology. Earlier this year, AWS published a framework for integrating FSx for NetApp ONTAP with Bedrock, Amazon Bedrock. Can you tell us, how these new capabilities, they could take advantage of that?
Yeah, for sure. I think, there's most customers that we speak to, they're moving very deliberately down their generative AI journey. They're starting with early experiments, they're moving to prototypes, moving into production. There are some customers that I've spoken to that have gone all in on AI. They've retasked thousands of their engineers over a weekend to focus exclusively on generative AI, moving very, very quickly. But without having to go all in, there is a group that is moving kind of faster than the average. And counterintuitively, it's actually the regulated industries. Financial services, insurance, healthcare, life sciences, manufacturing, those sorts of areas where the compliance with those regulations that maybe felt like a bit of a headwind at times for those organizations have actually driven the right set of behaviors to be successful with generative AI quite quickly. It's all around the unsexy stuff of governance. Well, I think it's pretty sexy, but the governance, privacy, the policies, all of those parts where you know what quality data you have, who can use it, what services it can be used on, and what it can be used for. Putting all that in place has already been done by a lot of these organizations, and as a result, the generative AI piece is actually a relatively small incremental lift, and they're able to move much more quickly as a result. In addition to that, as I'm sure many of you in this room, these organizations have absolutely huge volumes, petabytes, if not exabytes, of privately held text data. This is information which the models have never seen before, and which is, clinical trial reports, market research, financial reports, all those sorts of things. And generative AI today is really great at looking inside that information and starting to find correlation, find areas which are similar, create summaries, and almost as important, find areas where there's disagreement. And so being able to run those workloads quickly and easily means you can move very, very quickly. And as a result, most of these organizations that have had to sit on the sidelines a little bit with their digital transformation journey, as they've been looking at other industries like media streaming and hospitality and travel that have been completely revolutionized with the internet, they're looking at generative AI to not just catch up, but to actually leapfrog ahead.
You've had a couple of really important points there, Matt. Is that your call to action? Get your data ready. We've got people that in our audience that are responsible for the unstructured data assets of most of the world's large organizations. And if you had one call to action for them to get ready for this, transformative set of possibilities, what would you say to them?
Yeah, for sure. I think number one is to just get your data in order. The way in which these models operate mean that you can take all of the data that you already have and start extracting some of the latent value from that information. There's low-hanging fruit across all of that data. And to be able to very, very quickly and safely and responsibly start to inspect that information in new ways is going to open up just myriad new opportunities going forwards.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for the work that we do. Thanks for coming to NetApp Insight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt Wood. So you heard from us about the era of data and intelligence. We said that this has been hundreds of years in the making, but we stand today with unprecedented possibility because of the enormous progress in technology and data to help improve the human condition, to satisfy our ever yearning for understanding, for insight, and the possibility of predicting the future. We said that the keys to success in this era are your data and data strategy, your unique enterprise data, wide in scope, unified across time and types, high quality, well-organized, well-governed. Deep domain insight, knowledge of your industry, your functional domain, so that you can combine the possibilities of machine intelligence and your data in the most relevant way to make your business and organization successful. We talked about the operating model of being able to treat data as a product and be able to test, learn, and adapt quickly, and the importance of building a data ecosystem to complement your business ecosystem. We said that at its core, the main challenge with AI is a data challenge, and the fact that there is a deep chasm between siloed AI systems and enterprise data systems. And you heard that not only from us, but from all of our guests today. And we talked about the fact that just like we did in cloud, NetApp will bridge the chasm that exists between your AI systems and your enterprise data by bringing AI to your data. We are delivering the intelligent data infrastructure for the age of data and intelligence. This helps you bring AI to your data wherever and however you want in a way that is agile, attainable, and secure. And to do this, we're delivering 3 transformative data innovations for AI. Effectively understand and manage your data for AI. Bring AI to your data wherever and however you want. And deliver the power of AI efficiently and securely for your business and outcomes. These innovations have been the work that we have pursued for many years because we have always believed in the importance of unifying your data for competitive advantage rather than keeping it in silos. We have always believed in the possibility of connecting your data with the innovation capabilities wherever and whenever they may exist. And you should have that expectation of any of your data infrastructure providers, that they might build the roads and bridges to take your data to the places that you want them to be taken. Tomorrow, you'll hear from Harv Bela, Haiyan Song, and our senior product leaders about innovation, the awesome innovations we are delivering across every single aspect of our intelligent data infrastructure portfolio, from unified data storage to intelligent services to solutions for enterprise workloads and AI workloads on premises and in the cloud or anywhere in between. And on day 3, Cesar Sanuda, our president, together with leaders from our go-to-market organization and partners, will tell you about how we are bringing enablement, capability, and skills to enable you, our customers, to be successful. Don't miss it. I hope you have a wonderful NetApp Insight. Together, we commence the journey into the era of data and intelligence. Thank you for being here. God bless.
Give a big thank you to George. Big thank you to George and all our guests for such a powerful session. Hold on, folks, before you leave, I want to just say something really quick. We're wrapping up day one, just 30 seconds here. For all you folks in the room, the Let's Get It Started welcome reception begins now in the festival grounds. That's located in the Marquee Ballroom, so you're going to want to head there. You can't miss that. Just listen out for the drummers. They'll lead you there. And for those of you that are watching at home, don't go anywhere because in just moments, the coverage continues with Nick Howell and the NetApp On Air crew. They're going to be bringing...
It's security. Hey, do you want me to get Carl?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to NetApp On Air Snapshot. For the first time, thank you so much for joining us right here in the expo at Insight 2024. Very excited to have you guys join us today. Thank you, Mario, for all the introductions, and thanks to George, our customers, and our partners for joining us for the keynote today. We got a lot in store for this week. We're just getting the party started. In fact, we are here in the expo kicking off the welcome reception on day one. And a special shout out to anybody that joined us at the community warm-up party last night. Absolutely loved having you all there. Thank you so much for making that a really special night. We are going to do that much more and much bigger in the future. That I can promise you. So what do we got in store tonight? Well, if you just finished watching the keynote, this is for you, the people that aren't here. We're extending the event beyond the doors of the MGM here in Las Vegas, and we're making sure that all of our viewers online around the world that just couldn't make it here with us are also getting to be a part of the event this week. So, how is this going to work? Every day after the keynote, we're going to be live right here in the expo for 2 hours with a rotation of guests as we go through it, talking about and going over, giving some opinions and feedback on everything that was discussed during the keynote. So that's going to be really fun. We're going to field some of your questions. So if you have Q&A or any questions that you want to do, drop those into chat right here on YouTube. And if you're not watching on YouTube, come join us on the NetApp YouTube channel, and you can drop your questions in there, and we'll ask them right here on screen. Other housekeeping things, the Pin Hunter program is going on for those that are here at the event. You definitely want to get some of those to be a part of that. Or if you're just watching live, you can come join our Discord community. It's discord.gg/NetApp, or just go to netappdiscord.com, and you can find a quick button there to come and join the community. We are 5,000 strong in there now across support staff, engineers, people like myself and our community manager, Drew Claybrook, many other NetAppers, but more importantly, many more of your peers are in there. So come in, say hi, jump into the Insight chat channel, and let everybody know that you're watching along with NetApp On Air right here during Snapshot. I've got a special guest, the first one up today, who's been on the show several times before. He helped me host one of our launch events back in May. He's a friend of the show, he's a friend of Discord, friend of our community, Mr. Jeff Baxter. Jeff, thanks for joining me here on the show. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, Nick. I really appreciate it.
So what did you think of what was discussed? Let's get this out of the way. What was some of the things that we went over in the keynote today? It seems to be there's a very big theme around AI.
Yes.
I don't know if you heard or not, but that AI seems to be a really important thing now.
I've heard, yeah. No, it's I think AI is transforming everything, right? And we recognize that. And I think what today's keynote was about, and I will say, I'll give people a sneak peek, right? It's very much a multiple day chapter of talking about AI and of talking about everything NetApp is going for, right? So the day 2 keynote tomorrow morning, just to plug that, there's going to be even more announcements, right? Both about AI and about non-AI matters as well, right? But I think what George and all of his guests were trying to do tonight was really set the stage of how AI is, at its core, a data problem, right? Yeah. And solving this AI data gap is crucial, right? So no one's discounting the need for, GPUs. No one's discarding the need for the network. No one's discarding the need for any of that. But if your data isn't in place, if your data isn't compliant, if your data isn't ready, it doesn't matter about the rest of your stack. It's literal garbage in, garbage out. And so I think tonight was really about starting to unpeel the vision of what it looks like to have data be truly AI ready.
Yeah, and I have a phrase I like to throw around that I'm committed to putting on a T-shirt at some point that says, no data, no AI. And I think a lot of what I heard from George, from all of the guest speakers as well, was that this is all about taking care of your data, the curation of that data, the mobility of that data, the global nature of it, the ability to move it around and access it from wherever you might be or where might need to use it. But absolutely, you have to get into that librarian level mindset of cataloging and classifying and all of that stuff. It's going to be not optional if it's not already very soon. And I can remember that's some of the stuff we used to do just for end user data, for SMB home drives and stuff like that. We would get very strict about departmental shares, having to name things, folders certain ways and stuff like that. I can't imagine the scope of what it takes for today's practitioners to have to go through these levels of classification, naming conventions, and things like that. So what are some of the ways that we can help them with that, where they're not sitting and randomly renaming files or doing batch PowerShell scripts just to rename a bunch of stuff? What's some of the ways that ONTAP can help facilitate that?
Yeah, so I think the conversation today, Krish sort of unveiled this concept of a global metadata namespace that we're building, right? And if anything, I think it was undersold in terms of the impact you're going to see over the next couple of years in NetApp and the community as a whole.
Right.
This vision that he unveiled, which is something that is being built right now, by the way. It's not vaporware. And that is about, instead of having to name your files the right thing, right? Instead of having to bring your files together, this concept of having to move everything into a data lake is dead, right? The amount of data, the speed of data, the latency, the idea that you're ever going to physically bring your data together is becoming more and more ludicrous by the day. The idea that you're going to constantly have some other engine out there constantly scanning your data, trying to keep up with the pace of data growth, that's not realistic any longer. But if you are the file system, if you have access to the metadata, and if you can synthesize that in real time into one synthetic view of your entire global namespace, and then be able to apply AI against it, whether it's natural language queries or whether it's actually taking it as a data collection and bringing it out towards AI engines, that's transformative in terms of what it means to be, in the AI era for data.
Absolutely. I'm looking at this through the lens of someone that sits at a keyboard or at a console managing systems and managing data to an extent. What are some practical things that they could sort of get in the habit of, in your mind, or what are some of the practical things that we could depend on ONTAP to help deliver? You mentioned this global metadata engine that we're building. Is that one of those things where we can drive classification down into the deepest bowels of your data and scan it all and classify it all? We don't have to depend on file-level attributes so much anymore?
No. In terms of what people can do today, by the way, one of the biggest things they can do is get in and use BlueXP and use data classification today, right? So one of the things we did earlier this year was we made data classification free for all NetApp data, right? And usage has taken off from there, and it's an amazing success story. Everyone should be using it because you can go in and see your PII data, you can see your compliance data, you can see all of that, and that is the foundation of the Data Explorer and the metadata namespace that we're going to start to build.
Yeah.
So that when you have that metadata namespace, you can use compliance, you can use all those tools directly on top of it. So by using that, by making sure you have visibility into your entire data estate in BlueXP today, by making sure you're using the compliance tools you already have, you are already set up when this starts shipping.
Yeah. What do you see as some of the most exciting opportunities if we get into a kind of a solutions level conversation? Where do you see this really taking off? We've seen the rise of large language models and natural language interaction with Gen AI, ChatGPT, and the like. From a practical standpoint, where does this really start to affect upstream things that we used to do with Power BI or things like that? Where can some of that really start to drive business influence beyond just a data warehouse?
Yeah, it's a great question, Nick. I think, I'll take it from a slightly different angle. What I think is fascinating and hidden in this question is the ability for all of our storage admins, right? All the bread and butter people who sit at keyboards and maintain storage and are infrastructure architects to start to connect up the ladder to data infrastructure engineers, whether they want to do that for a living or whether they just want to be able to fulfill that role and talk to that role. And there's kind of this chasm sometimes between the data scientist and the infrastructure engineer, right? And we're not claiming you're going to be all things to all people, but imagine if all of a sudden to your data scientist, you can be the keeper of data collections.
Yeah.
Right? So that you can, instead of just being able to talk about, hey, I got a LUN for you, or I got an NFS share for you, you can say, hey, I've got this clinical AI, I've got this clinical data about healthcare, a healthcare trial, and it's available as a constantly dynamically updated collection. Here's your API, right? You've transformed from a storage admin to being a data admin, right? Or being a data engineer. And that's huge. I mean, the ramifications of that for what our customers are going to be able to do, for what the industry is going to be able to do, and transform into being, true data infrastructure engineers is just astonishing.
Yeah, and I look at that. That's a great point. Like the ability to deliver a service to your end users instead of just a dumb volume, for example.
Right.
Being able to extend the capabilities of ONTAP up to the people that are going to be using it on a day-to-day basis. It also, in the inverse of what you said, it makes them not have to be storage engineers.
Yeah.
And I think that's arguably more valuable than the storage engineers of today. We saw that a lot with movements like virtualization and things like that, extending that self-service nature for app developers, for example, to be able to spin up their own test VMs and do unit testing in batches and stuff like that. So I think this is the level of automation that we're going to see around leveraging the AI that is built under the covers. We've heard this story before. Anybody that's been in the industry for the last couple of decades, it feels like deja vu a little bit. We've done this with cloud. We've done this with virtualization. We did it with client server to an extent around Y2K. So it's a familiar story, but the immense gravity of the size of this effort, working in hundreds of potentially petabytes of data long term. And does this, one last question I'll throw at you, does this keep us even more so storing more and more data long term? And how do we deal with archiving when it comes to this stuff? I guess is a loose question that just popped into my mind.
Yeah,
because
it's a great question.
We try to tear some of that stuff off.
Yeah.
We try to we want to shove it in a cold, dark hole so that we can just not have to worry about it. But that's arguably some of the most valuable historical data that you have access to. Why not leverage it? So does that mean more long-term data is going to be stored on active systems?
I think not necessarily, right? Because I think once you have the metadata captured and you've done the vector embeddings for that data, right, what it will cause is vector databases to continue to grow and grow and grow with data. And that's why some of the things we're going to talk about making vector databases more and more efficient are going to be important. But the data itself can be kept on cooler and cooler and cooler storage. It doesn't need to be constantly analyzed if you have this metadata namespace. So I think, there will be some longevity of data for sure. But I think one of the things we've always been committed to is making sure the data is in the right place at the right time at the right cost. Right? You've probably heard that from NetApp a lot. Nothing about AI fundamentally changes that. It just means that the value of that data increases.
Yeah.
Right? And I would add, by the way, Nick, just as you were talking, it really is. It's almost like it was planned, this 30 years of NetApp, right? And this is kind of what you were saying, right? In terms of, first we unified sort of protocols, right? First we unified NFS and CIFS, then we unified NAS and SAN, right? Then we unified it out to the cloud, right? And every step we've taken to that is so that you can create a data estate that is all of your data. And unless we had done all that 30 years worth of work, we wouldn't be able to build a metadata catalog. We wouldn't be able to present all this data with AI. So I'd love to say it was all part of some master plan from Dave Hitz 30 years ago, right? Yeah. I'm sure some of it was in his head. There's also a better lucky than good sometimes, right? But everything we did was based on the idea of let's make it easier for users to centralize, collapse, and unify their data. And that is ideally suited to when you want to take advantage of it with AI.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think this just plays into our strengths.
Yes.
And arguably punishes the weakness of some of the others that are out there, if I'm being honest, because this has been our bread and butter, the multi-protocol, unified, one system to rule them all kind of approach, now in large multi-node clusters and now in multi-site metadata warehouses. Like, you can get really scalable with this kind of a solution. And it really rewards that unification when you do it right, when you take advantage of a lot of the things that ONTAP has to offer. So I'm excited about it. I think this is going to be a fantastic way that we can bring all of this stuff together specifically for AI. And I'm looking at this through the lens of the practitioners. One of the questions that always come up, how do we back up AI? And this is one that has come up recently, and I think I sent it over to you specifically. This one caught me by surprise in the sense that, do we continue to leverage the Flex and SnapWord foundational elements of ONTAP to even continue carry backups into artificial intelligence. I'm just, as a seasoned veteran of ONTAP yourself, like, how do you see that playing out long term?
So I'll say two things. One is our goal is to bring a lot of what Krish calls ONTAP-isms, right? So things like SnapDiff and other things like that, to bring them into the AI fold. And the second thing I'll say is stay tuned for day 2.
Stay tuned for day 2. All right. You heard it there first. Any other closing final thoughts you'd like to leave with the audience that they might be on the lookout for?
I'm so pleased to be back here. I know this is our second year back at Insight. It continues to grow. Thank you to everyone who's attending. You can see so many of them behind us, right, filling up the festival grounds here as they stream out of the keynote.
Yep.
It's just fabulous to be around the community, and it's fabulous to have the people listening, on the show as well. And it's a great feeling to be part of the community. And I want to thank you for my Discord pin as well. Since
I've been give you a Discord pin.
Well, Drew gave me a Discord pin.
Oh, well, we'll have to talk.
I've been on Discord for a long time.
You do, but did he give you your special role?
I think he gave me my special role at some point.
As long as he did.
Okay.
We did have one question come in here for you from community mentor Darth Vikes. He's been around for a minute. It seems like S3 buckets along with metadata perhaps in S3 can unlock some of that accessibility with APIs. Just need more tooling to input that metadata. That's a really good point. Where does object start to come into play with some of the other things that we were talking about?
Yeah.
So we can certainly talk about the unified nature of file and block.
Yep.
But when you bring object into the mix, that's where people, especially disparate user groups, have started stuffing data into these S3 buckets over the last decade. That's going to become a really big player, I think, in this unified story. Where do you sit with object storage and its effect on this?
No, 100%. I mean, one of the things Krish said in his pitch was when we build this global metadata namespace, he actually slipped there and there, ONTAP and storage grid, right? So the idea to bring an object. Now, certainly, as object sources are available elsewhere, we could look at, how do we add those into the metadata environment. But yeah, the goal is to be able to leverage data and metadata wherever it lies, right? So both, unstructured data, object data as being a key part of that, and then to some extent also structured data where we can get access into the structures of the underlying data. So everything is, for us, no data is out of limits, basically, right? We want to have that as part of the overall namespace so that we can use it to feed the AI engine.
Yeah, and we can do that in the cloud. We can do that on-prem. We
can
do that
everywhere.
In storage grid. We can do that.
Probably do that in an RV loaded with a whole bunch of FAS systems.
I want to drive that RV.
I know you do. I'm surprised you don't have that RV already.
I want one of those fifth-wheel toy haulers with a data center in the back.
I like it.
That's basically what I
want. Pretty much.
DatacenterDude RV.
DatacenterDude on the road, right? There you go.
There we go.
I branded it.
That's next year's snapshot.
I get a certain percentage of the profits from that, right?
You heard it here first, guys.
There we go.
Jeff, one last question for you. What's your favorite part?
This is the third one last question, by the way. I'm keeping track. Okay.
One last thing.
Okay.
Well, then we'll get to our next guest. What's your favorite part of the community?
Oh.
On the spot. I got to ask
My favorite part of the community? You mean like the online community or just this community and everything like that?
Just in general. Like, where do you find value personally in, like, as a product leader to an extent, like, there's a certain value to feedback that you can get from the community, obviously, but like I'm asking on a personal level, like what do you get out of it?
I don't like to play favorites, but since I saw Sam Moulton just walk by, I'm going to call it the A-Team, right?
Okay.
I am the executive sponsor of the A-Team. The A-Team, what I love about the A-Team is it's open, it's democratic, right? It's not just about being, are you a NetApp employee or a NetApp partner? Are you a customer? It's about, do you have a passion for what we can do for our customers, right? And so I have great friends there. I've made relationships that I maintain even outside of work there. And it's that, it's what makes you want to keep doing this job for 16 plus years is the people and the friendships. I feel like I'm a movie trailer. It's the friendships I made along the way, Nick, right? But that, I love all the communities we have of interest, Discord, people on Reddit, our NTAB groups, our CSAB groups, our PSAB groups, acronym, by the way, that's our customer advisory boards, our partner advisory boards, our technical advisory boards. All the input is incredibly valuable. And then the A-Team for me is just kind of a summation of a lot of really cool nerds hanging out and seeing what we could do for customers.
We had a lot of them at the community party last night.
A ton of them at the community party.
Time.
Was the community party supposed to be the answer there?
Was it supposed to be what?
To your question, was the community party supposed to be the answer to your question?
No, but I'll allow it.
Okay, good. Well, then the community party, I hear, was amazing. I was locked in a room doing rehearsals for keynotes, but I hear it was amazing.
It was amazing.
It was amazing, yes.
Well over 300 people came through, and it was
amazing.
Absolutely beautiful. So, again, thank you to everybody for coming out and joining us. Jeff, thank you so much for your time today. I'll let you get back to the show and go walk around and have a drink and mingle. But appreciate you stopping by. Thanks for saying hi to the community with us, and I'm sure we'll see you sometime in the near future.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
You got it. All right, guys. Well, that is Mr. Jeff Baxter. Thanks, Jeff, for joining us. Really appreciate it. Some really insightful stuff to talk about when it comes to artificial intelligence and how we're really handling that, especially from a product standpoint, and how we view the way that the market is kind of steering how we're looking at it and how we're thinking about it. So at the end of the day, that's what we really listen to. All of your feedback, all of our customers, you play a big part in how we do this stuff going forward. So everything that you just heard Jeff talk about, everything you heard George and all of our guests talk about on stage during the day one keynote, that all plays a factor in how we deliver a lot of this stuff to the market. And he did mention on his way out the NetApp A team. And so our next guest that I'm going to bring up on the show has been a long time NetApp A team member. He's one of my favorite people, and I just moved my mic. That's fun. Mr. John Woodall. John, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Man, thank you. What a great first day keynote.
No kidding.
I mean, I've heard a lot of them as you longtime NetApp partner, longtime NetApp A team member. Great stuff. I can't wait for day 2.
Oh yeah.
Well, so good.
I can't spoil anything.
They teased us.
They did a little dangle, little carrot dangle out there.
I want the meal.
Yeah. We're ready to feast.
That's
right. For sure. Today the theme is AI.
Yes.
Everything that George talked about, everything that Chris mentioned, everything that the customers and partner guests mentioned, AI all the time. And I think there's a point to that. And I want to see if you
AI
feel
important. Is that a thing?
It's got something to do with data.
Yeah, it's something.
So there's. There's this theme developing that I've heard play out several times before. It happened with cloud.
Yep.
It happened with, you could go back to the convergence of unifying protocols with storage, right?
Yeah.
It's data.
Yes.
And one of the things that I told Jeff at the beginning is no data, no AI.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm curious to hear your perspective on what's going on in the industry.
Yeah.
How are customers receiving this?
Yeah.
How are people taking it up? Is there resistance to it? I'm just kind of give me your general thoughts around things, Riley. State of the union.
I mean, if you're like me, I can't go probably an hour a day without seeing something pop up somewhere in all the feeds that I have on AI. And everyone's focused on these hero numbers, what we hear at GTC, XAI, X, and so on. And that's right. But George alluded to it. It's the largest companies in the world that are doing it.
Yeah.
And I think there's a continuum for customers. The bulk of customers are somewhere on this journey. And if there's a partner here that uses this model, AI curious, AI ready, AI mature.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Right. And I've talked to people across the spectrum. The ones that are on maybe their second, third, whatever generation of DGX infrastructure, they've built models, they have staff, they know what they're doing, they have the tooling. That's similar to a lot of the enterprise deals you do for standard applications. There's sizing, there's availability discussions, and they're trying to get in the queue for H100s and 200s. At the other end of the spectrum, people know this is important.
Yeah.
2032, $16 trillion is the economic benefit that's forecast from AI.
Wow.
Right? 20% increase in the U.S. GDP. There's real business value, and people have latched on to that. iPhone 16 announced, iOS 18 will in the next release, AI built in. So people are becoming very comfortable with using it, but in the enterprise, it's not just as like, let me just fire up ChatGPT.
Right.
They want to go build something of value to their business, get a return on their investment.
Yep.
And so if you start from the people that are just starting and curious, and now they're ready, what I heard today, and it's just such a nice segue of what's next with NetApp, is the data. I hadn't heard the statistic George used. 80% of the time is spent on data prep, cleaning, dedupe, and all of that.
Curation
of the data.
Yep.
It's a staggering number.
Yep.
Large language model failure rates during AI training runs, 56%.
We got a little ways to go.
So, like cloud, when it first hit, there's a lot of learning curve. And I think that's where most people are at in the industry, is figuring out where do they start, what do they do, and how should they envision their return on their investment. The technology does matter.
Yeah.
And what I heard today is kind of mind-blowing. I wish I could pop up the emoji with the head going off, because what NetApp provides in de-siloing just around the data itself, Explorer, be able to go in and by policy identify compliant data, PII, and make sure that your inferencing is getting only the data that you want. To do that without NetApp is multiple solutions, complexity, and cost. You're a NetApp customer, you get it. It's incredible value and simplifies the discussion.
Yeah.
We'll hear more about platforms, we always do. But, I mean, I think you find people along this continuum, and the challenge is to meet them where they are and help them progress as makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's just the highest level view, but I think it's a realistic view of where customers are. Some are there and love having those customers. They spend a lot of money, right?
Well, they're probably also very good stewards of all their data.
They've
and have
gone
spent
through
the
that.
time over the decades curating it properly, archiving it properly, preparing it for whenever this day would come.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be a start. Listen, anytime we have a new technology vector arrive, there's two things that always come up: technical debt and skills gaps. And I think
You're
AI
not talking about VMware, are you?
Not at all. Or cloud. Not at all.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see that yet again, and that's going to be something that every institution, every company is going to have to deal with. Every CIO and IT director out there at the foundational levels are going to have to deal with that to some extent. But I think there are ways that ONTAP can help make this easier.
Absolutely.
It's one of the things I was just talking about with Mr. Baxter a second ago. ONTAP makes this easier by doing a lot of that heavy lifting for you, so that you can get on about, and then you just end up accessing an API.
Well, and I'll go back to the silo concept. You look at the average enterprise, they have multiple storage platforms for any number of reasons. Some make sense, some I don't think do. When you start thinking about the amount of data, having the tools that NetApp provides through the Blue XP interface, the tools that have been in ONTAP for a really long time, the autonomous ransomware detection, prevention, and recovery tooling, keeping that data safe from bad actors. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
You don't have to look further. And so I have two guiding principles I like to think of with customers. Optimize everywhere, modernize everything. You typically have to do it on budget cycles or from a project cycle, but you have to have that end state in mind of how do I simplify the infrastructure? And I love that George referenced the data fabric from when that started.
Love it.
Because we've been extending the network and VMs for years. But until you extend not just the storage, but the data management and the data services that go with it, the platform around
it's
the
the
data.
metadata layer on top of it.
All of that. When you can extend that to wherever you need to that makes sense for your business, now you've truly created a full data fabric. Now you lay on top of that an AI workload. Being able to take it from, taking good care of your data, cleaning, prepping, all of those steps, having the same storage, having multiple tiers of performance and cost, being able to tier, being able to take a snapshot, flex clone it, and have a set of developers start a regression cycle off of a gold standard for almost no space in very quick time. Don't move data if you don't have to. It's expensive.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that are inherent to the NetApp platform. It's not a storage device. It's a platform that enable efficiency and flexibility. Anyone else, they might do the storage piece, but then you have to add in additional solutions to make a complete platform around your data. NetApp has provided that, and what I heard George commit to today, the best one, bar none, down the road.
Yeah.
And so the journey continues. I've been watching it from, I heard you and Jeff talking about the unification, 2002, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got files. Now we got file and SAN, right? And then the cloud virtualization hit, and then the cloud took off, now multi-cloud. And now I find ourselves in the era of data in AI and intelligence. And the value proposition has never been stronger. And I would say simplify with NetApp around the data platform. Leverage the ecosystem that you already invest in with NVIDIA, with Cisco and others around the rest of the stack. Automate heavily, think of infrastructure as code. A lot of this, I'm still thinking through Explorer.
It looks amazing.
I went, we need to learn more on this.
So so we can't talk about industry trends with AI without talking about sustainability. I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball because I think a lot of this plays into that argument as well when it comes to sustainability. When you can unify, you're reducing footprint, you're reducing floor tile space, power consumption, cabling needs, all of the above.
Density of your storage. It's going to be flash for AI. Let's just not fool around. We can tier differently. The flash is going to be, TLC or QLC flash. C-Series is a great fit. Well, that's going to continue, getting better and denser. Blue XP gives you your actual, not spec data, but what your actual consumption is, and guided steps to improve your scores.
Yeah.
It's something that every public company in the U.S. has to deal with. I heard Elon Musk in an interview with Bosch earlier this year, and they were talking about scaling in AI, and he's one of the few that have a really good view of it. There were 3 things he highlighted. The 10x growth of performance that we're seeing from NVIDIA in every 6 months won't continue forever. The next thing is step-down transformers.
Yeah.
Then it's the power grid.
Yep.
And so you can change, your individual company's scores by going to a more efficient data center. Pick a colo, pick a cloud. But beyond that, things have to change. Will we see large language models pervasively? No. Will we see small language models? A lot more.
Yes.
Well, that reduces the infrastructure footprint and cost. So I think there's going to be, just like with cloud, we saw a lot of learning over the first few years as we figured out what was the best practice. Some things didn't exist. We had to find new innovation. That all came in. It's like going to the moon with John F. Kennedy's famous speech. We're going to do this. No, we're going to do this. And this is one of those moments in tech.
Well, fun question to throw at you with that. What do you think of Microsoft buying and firing up 3 Mile Island? You heard about that?
Yeah, I did.
Is that what it's going to take to do all this AI,
Bill
John?
Gates and others are doing startups for small nuclear.
Yeah.
If you figure the U.S. Navy can safely run nuclear submarines for how many decades?
Yeah.
Why can't you have a nuclear something right next to your data center? There's some startups in that space that are really interesting around creating, it's material science and no moving parts, creating an environment where solar radiation will heat these blocks in a container.
Oh, wow.
To like a really high thousands of degrees temperature, but through heat transfer they can generate megawatts of power.
Yep.
And it's clean.
Yeah.
So again, these are just some of the innovations and efficiencies that have to happen, because if the enterprise everybody wants to run on a GPU accelerated compute environment, the grid's not going to support it.
I have one of those at home.
Yeah. Do tell.
It's an RTX video card. It's not a full stack of H100s. Okay.
But it heats the house in the winter, right?
Yeah, it does. It does actually, which doesn't turn out to be power efficient at all. I've come to find out. No, because natural gas is much cheaper. No, I look at this as, I think one of your points, I think there is an opportunity for innovation in nuclear to the point that we could scale it down to the point where, I don't know, I'll say something crazy. Could you have a small fusion reactor in your garage, in every home? Like, I think we could get it to that point 10, 20 years out from now.
Yeah, if you're not thinking 3 Mile Island scale. I'm not doing the metropolitan area. When solar took off, we've all got the experience of ourselves, our friends who are off the grid. They make a little money. Tesla has that in their Powerwall business. No plug for it. I think there is an opportunity for at least the enterprise or commercial real estate, colo providers, et cetera, to look at multiple new power sources that are more green. But yeah, we've got to figure out how to supply power to this. That will be a gating item. Yeah, because a lot of the discussions, especially at the mature end of that scale I was referring to. Okay, let's be honest. A SuperPod is over 1 megawatt of power.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah, I can cable it. I can design my data center because the design engineering is different for that type of scale for GPU compute. Do I have enough power?
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, some do, some don't.
Some don't.
I mean, Meta's talking about 600,000 GPUs.
Yeah, and no amount of windmills is going to generate that much power for us.
So we have to have something that's got a lot of power generation capability that we don't have today. I think we'll go fine for a while, but when the enterprise, and this is what Gartner talks about, 2023, early 24 was the peak of enlightenment on their hype curve for generative AI. Now we're in the trough of disillusionment, where we're trying to figure out supply chain, power, how do what's happening in the software side, the model side, and to get to the business results. And then the next step is the spend starts, but it's going to be the enterprise, not just the Fortune 100, if you will.
Yeah.
And if we can't solve some of these problems,
Yeah. Well, John, thank you so much for the time.
Pleasure.
I really appreciate it. I love this conversation. I think that you can't have the AI conversation without having the data conversation, without having the sustainability conversation.
Exactly.
I think it's all encompassing when you have to do that kind of stuff. And I think one of the practical things that we're going to see come out of all of this innovation around AI is I think it's going to breed some innovation around sustainability. I think we're truly going to crack that egg and figure out how to really do sustainable power long term because of it.
Yeah, it becomes a completely holistic discussion, just got larger.
Yeah.
Right, so great talking with you, Nick.
Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate it, man.
My pleasure.
Take care.
See you later.
All right, guys, that was a really good conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. I think we could talk about sustainability for a long time. Hint, hint, we are going to. Coming very soon, I think in the coming weeks after Insight, we are going to have some very special guests coming on talking about sustainability, because I really think that's a under-discussed topic when it comes to, especially when it comes to things around AI and the sheer amount of power that it's going to take to drive that going forward. So, again, thanks to John. Wanted to shout out to the A-team as well for joining us here on the show today. My next guest is one of the senior directors here at NetApp. He covers AI, virtualization, many other things, the solutions for them. Mr. Russell Fishman. Russell, thanks for joining, man.
Nick, pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, I can hear you just about. It's a bit loud in here, but that's not a bad thing, is it?
Oh, that's what we wanted. It's a party in here. If you look behind us, there are thousands of people that have come down onto the expo at this point.
A bunch of techies, good food. I saw a sushi burrito earlier, wine pouring. What more could you ask for?
A great keynote.
A great keynote,
preceded by a great
it?
keynote. I thought the conversation with I really liked Chris's presentation.
Yeah,
because I'm a technical guy. But I really liked the way he navigated that story of how you can use classification and really bring this data curation story to life. Yeah. I'm curious to get your thoughts on this as well, because how do we get, from a solutions standpoint, how do we take the ONTAP as a product, as a data storage juggernaut, and then wrap solutions around that to enable a lot of the things that Chris was describing?
Yeah, it's a great question. As you know, we've been doing this AI thing for many years, right?
Yeah.
So I think probably 7 years.
In 2016, the ONTAP AI launched.
And listen, we've got hundreds of customers that run us in production for AI use cases. And what does that really mean? Well, look, we don't just expect people to take our products and just kind of throw them in and hope for the best. We help them, right? Yeah. We give them prescriptive guidance on how to get the most out of the stuff. We don't want people kind of guessing. We want people getting the right answer. And so that's really where our relationship with NVIDIA started. So take it back, 7 years, and, NVIDIA was, as a pioneer, had recognized really early that, data and storage is really important to their mission. data's the fuel. We like to say data's the fuel that drives the AI engine.
Right.
I know, bit cheesy. I'm sorry about that, but you get the general gist, right? So we started investing really early with them, building these sort of these reference architectures, and it started off really as an infrastructure thing, right? How do I build infrastructure that kind of works well together? I don't have to guess. It's just you put it together, and you know what? We've given you prescriptive guidance on how to get it working really well. So that's where it all started. But then, of course, what does infrastructure do by itself? Well, a whole bunch of nothing. Right? You got to build applications on it.
Yeah.
So we started building applications on it. And so we've got this amazingly rich set of applications and ecosystem partners that let us deliver something that's meaningful to a customer. Outcomes, right?
Outcomes.
Not just stuff. Outcomes. Business outcomes. So, yeah, I thought Krish did a really good job talking that through and also painting a bit of a vision for NetApp's part in the future of AI, right? And I'll tell you one thing, I'm clear. NetApp is not the AI company, but we're an accelerant for AI. We make it happen. And you know what? Without folks like us, it really becomes very difficult to make AI a reality.
Well, one of the things that I've told your two predecessors that sat in that chair beforehand was I have a phrase that I like to throw around: no data, no AI.
Yeah.
So it really becomes that foundational building block that you have to have, and then you have to layer on top of it that layer of curation to be able to take advantage of that. But even then, above and beyond that, you have to build these prescriptive solutions,
yes,
at least to an extent prescriptive,
yes,
that can take advantage of all of that other work that you've already spent the last couple of decades doing.
That's right.
Right? But if you haven't taken the time to do that work, if you haven't gone through that, fret not. ONTAP is here to help. Data classification is now free, right? In case you didn't hear that, data classification in Blue XP is now free to all NetApp customers. So turn it on, get it working for you, get it going in your favor, because some of the solutions that we're bringing to market will take advantage of that classification in a very big way.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Listen, I mean, so you said the phrase, hey, there's no data, no AI, and that is true. But you know what's also true? Good quality data.
Yeah.
Right? And the reality is that folks don't really think through that, right? But you know what? If you don't feed like a retrieval augmented generation Gen AI solution the right sort of data, it doesn't know what's good data. It doesn't know what to answer.
Right.
It sees 2 bits of conflicting information. There's no idea. It's giving you the wrong answer. And if you talk about the difference between folks trying out this stuff in a POC context and then putting it into production, especially we were talking in the keynote about these regulated industries, things like finance, healthcare, et cetera, where you know what? The wrong answer matters.
Yeah.
Right? And there was actually, I'll give you a good example. There was, I won't say the airline, I'll spare blushes, right?
Yeah.
But there is an airline, an American airline, that had started using generative AI for customer service use cases. Makes total sense. It's good for a consumer that I can immediately go talk to someone that has the power to do something, even if it's a chatbot. But it doesn't matter. If it answers my question and gets me on my way quicker than waiting 45 minutes on hold, hey, man, that's good, right?
No brainer.
Here's the problem. What happens when it gets it wrong? So this consumer had asked a question about, hey, listen, if I cancel this trip under this set of circumstances, what is going to happen? And the answer, he actually asked, will I get a refund? And you know what? The chatbot said, yeah, you will get a refund. He goes, great. He cancelled. No refund. That's weird, right? So he's like, so eventually he gets to talk to a human. The human goes, no. The chatbot gave you the wrong answer, but sorry, that's our policy. He went, He took him to court. He took him to small claims court, and he won.
Yeah.
So here's the answer, right? The chatbot was an official agent of the company, and there's no excuse of, it made a mistake. Well, guess what? It made a mistake, but it was an official agent of the company. That person took action based on what that agent said, that chatbot said. And that guy won and got his money from this big corporation. These are some of the real world challenges that people have. So you know what? In that case, that data that was fed into that RAG environment was wrong.
Yeah.
It had conflicting information. The RAG doesn't know any better. It got an old policy. That policy was out of date like 10 years ago, but someone fed it in. You know what? If you don't curate the data, if you don't understand quality, this has real business impact.
Yeah, you have to be stewards. You have to be librarians, for lack of a better word, of everything that you're putting together in your data estate.
Yes.
And I hear data lake and data warehouse and all these things. I think it's an estate. I think that's the word I like to use because it's going to transcend storage systems and clouds and all this stuff. You have to look at it holistically as an estate.
Yeah.
And individual components are going to be bigger than others, and they're going to have different metadata, and they're going to have different curation teams and practices and stuff. There has to be a level of at least connective tissue or standardization around how you're doing all the metadata and all of that stuff. Guys, this stuff is fundamental. You have, if you're managing storage, you're managing data, you should have been doing this stuff already, but if you haven't, don't worry about it. ONTAP's going to help. We're going to help you take care of that. What was the other thing I wanted to bring up with you? I always throw around the phrase ONTAP everywhere.
Yeah.
From a solution standpoint, what does that mean to the end users? The fact that they can have the same flex and snap words, the same solution architectures, regardless of whether they're on-prem in the cloud, at an edge, it's still ONTAP at the end of the day. All the APIs are the same. All the Terraform is the same. All of that stuff.
Yeah.
Where do you see that playing out in the solutions side of the world? Especially when we start looking at AI, for example.
I mean, look, it's great to I've been worked at NetApp for now almost 10 years, and it's just great to be at a company that's just so far ahead of the rest. I mean, okay, I'm going to say that. I get my paycheck from NetApp every month. But here's the reality, right? We are the only company that has this single operating system that sits everywhere, right? It sits in the cloud. It sits in all three hyperscalers. It comes through all these different form factors on-prem. And you heard other things that were being announced today, or kind of previewed, I should say, that they're going to talk more about in tomorrow's keynote. And by the way, if folks aren't tune in for tomorrow's keynote. It's going to be awesome. There's going to be so much amazing stuff. You're going to hear much more detail than you heard today. You heard kind of some tidbits, like breadcrumbs, maybe you'd say. But you're going to hear a little nuance. So you're going to hear a load more about it tomorrow. But look, what ONTAP Everywhere does is helps our customers in ways that no one else can really help them, because what it does is it recognizes that data isn't in one place neatly tied up in a bow. We all know this. Your data's kind of everywhere. Despite our best efforts, right? The reality is data's everywhere. Now, here's the interesting thing. There was obviously a huge push in the industry to kind of consolidate data into data lakes and data lake houses and warehouses and all the other versions of that that you've heard over the years. And there were some big ones like Hadoop. We all remember Hadoop. Hey, by the way, Hadoop is dead, in case you didn't know, right? I mean, I'm not the first.
You heard it here first, folks.
You're not the first man to say that, but Hadoop is definitely dead, right? I hear that a lot, by the way, from our customers. The reality is the types of data we're using for some of these new advances in AI, Nick, are not the same types of data, right? It's actually it's going after data that you probably didn't have in your data lakehouse before, and didn't make sense for a data lakehouse, right? So what we're seeing is, with all this kind of unstructured, especially file data, which is driving this kind of next generation of RAG. How do you manage that? How do you control it? So it's everywhere, right? So that's already difficult, right? And we also, you may have heard during the keynote today, just this idea of how many times data is copied, because you know what, all these different tools, all these different parts of the AI pipeline process, etc. Wouldn't it be great if, you could simplify that by having one place to run all of your applications out of with the same corpus. There's another word for you, corpus.
Oh, there we go.
Corpus, you know that? Yeah, Latin.
Yeah, I like that.
Body. Yeah. Corpus of data, right? Wouldn't it be great? And you know what? We can do that. Now, listen, it doesn't mean all the data's in the same place. So what happens if it's in the cloud? Well, guess what? A singular control plane and a consistent data plane. That's what NetApp can do super, super uniquely. And you heard, obviously, today from Microsoft and from AWS. I'm sure we'll hear Google at some point. But the point is, we're the only ones that have that in each of the hyperscalers. And unlike others where, you're talking about marketplace services, you're talking about first-party data services based on ONTAP, that it's getting directly integrated. You heard today from AWS about the integration with Bedrock, where they're directly integrating our ONTAP services into the first-party services. So whatever you do, whether your data's on-prem or the cloud, wherever your AI needs to be, right? Is it on-prem? Is it cloud? You know what? In reality, for most of us, it's hybrid. We can help people. So look, our job for our viewers here and listeners, right? It's all going to be about how they can become AI champions in their organizations, right? And when I think about a champion, I'm thinking about an enabler, right? So most people in business don't necessarily think of themselves as the people that are pushing AI. They kind of feel a bit reactive. You may even be perceived as someone that's holding back in AI innovation. You know, the early parts of AI were sort of, you know, I would say characterized by boards going to AI practitioners and lines of business saying, hey, here's money, just go do it. And by the way, ignore IT.
Yeah, go build me an AI.
Yeah, just go
that
build.
means.
Don't worry about IT. They're going to slow you the hell down. You know, so that's where it all started. But you know what? The reality is that people have started moving to production for these things.
Yeah.
The horror, the realization.
Like the chatbot example you gave,
the
right?
horror, the realization of the impact, and also not being funny. What happens when it goes wrong at 3 a.m. in the morning on a Saturday? Who are they going to call?
Yeah.
Well, you could call Ghostbusters.
One of the things that George brought up during the keynote was access to tools, access to things like that.
Right.
I think that's going to play a big part.
Yeah.
The democratization, if you will, of AI to give more people. It's not going to be some crazy specialty. The fact that, and we saw Satya say something similar in his video, that I think the access to the tools and the AIs that are out there, regardless of where they're built, is really going to be foundational as well for a lot of these companies to kind of take a first dip a toe in the water and get used to it before they go in and full on build a RAG environment for all their data ever. Like, they can get comfortable with it, get used to it, eliminate some of that technical debt and skills gap stuff, just so they get comfortable with it. But I can't wait till 5 years from now to see what some of our largest customers, their RAG environments that they've put together, using petabytes and petabytes of their own data, may have even more powerful AIs than some of the consumer level ones that are out there now.
Well, they'll be more useful, right?
Yeah.
Because they're going to
for
be
them specifically.
Good for them specifically. So you're going to see a lot more sort of verticalization than you've ever seen before. But yeah, look, I would tend to agree with you. We're just starting on this journey to, you know, that word democratization of AI is probably a little bit overused. We're overusing it now, right? But here's the reality, right? Not every company has the resources or the wherewithal to go and hire a bunch of data scientists, data engineers, if you can find them, which, by the way, you can't. You know, it's funny, I was sitting in my dentist's chair, right? And I always have a little, you want to have a chat with a dentist, right? Because, you know.
I don't.
You don't?
No, I don't like the dentist.
You want to calm down, right? I like to calm down. So I like to calm down, have a chat with the dentist. He's like talking about his son. He's off to university. He's like, you know, he's kind of, what career should he be? And he's like interested in data and computer science. And it wasn't even, it was easy, data engineer. I was like, man, you know, you are going to walk into a fantastic job straight away. There aren't enough of you.
Yeah.
You can be prima donnas. You know, that's the reality, right? You just, you know, you don't like what's happening. You move somewhere else and get more money. No, in all seriousness, look, most of these companies are just going to want to be users, right? They're just going to want to be users or consumers, which means they're not going to be developing. It's kind of like buying Office, Microsoft Office. You don't need to develop Microsoft Office to get the value out of it. So that's where I think, and you're going to hear us talk about that in the next couple of days, right? How do we move from the, hey, AI is accessible to a few few companies that really invested, to being available to everyone.
Yeah.
So listen, I hope that, you know, the folks that are watching live and if you're listening afterwards and get a chance to go back and listen to the recordings, get to listen to the next couple of days, because I tell you what, you're going to walk away with a lot of very practical experience on how you can become a champion in your own organization.
Yeah. Russell, thank you so much for joining us, man. I really appreciate it, and thank you for making time for us, and a great conversation. I absolutely loved it. Look forward to having you back on the show sometime in the future.
Appreciate it, as always. Thanks, Nick.
Well, there we go, guys. Mr. Russell Fishman, he is our Senior Director of Solutions for AI, Virtualization, and many other things. You've probably interacted with Russell at some point if you've been around NetApp for any period of time. All right, moving right along. We got a lot to go, guys. Don't go anywhere. Keep joining us. If you have questions, make sure you're throwing them in the chat over on YouTube. If you're watching over on netapp.com or insight.netapp.com, come join us over on YouTube so you can ask questions and throw them in there. My next guest is a longtime friend of mine. I'm excited to have him on the show. I'm excited to talk to this dude. Not only do we want to highlight our own employees and our own product leaders here at the company this week, not only do we want to highlight the NetApp A team this week, we also want to highlight arguably one of the most important things that NetApp has, and that's our partners. The companies that are out there putting our products to use, pushing the boundaries of everything we can do with them. And one of my favorites, who I affectionately refer to as the Dub-Dub, WWT, Mr. Derek Elbert. Derek, thanks so much for joining me on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Nick, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So what do you do at WWT? Give the folks a quick introduction.
Yeah, so quick intro. I'm a solutions architect at WWT. I sit in the Global Solutions and Architecture Group, so we're a global team that covers the industry from a technology focus, right? We don't focus based on a given region or a given account, but we cover it more on a technology or solution focus. So that's where we sit within WWT. There's about 250 of us that
that's
support
a big team.
A lot of solutions, yeah.
So as global team, you're
global
covering
team,
everything.
Yep.
Wow. I guess the thing I want to start off asking with, obviously the theme of today is AI. The keynote was very focused on AI solutions, leveraging NetApp and ONTAP specifically under the covers for some of that data management, the foundational pieces of it. How have you seen ONTAP and NetApp storage and solutions really have... let me take a step back for a second. Give me your pulse on what's happening out there from the partner perspective. Like, where are you seeing the uptake happen just in general around AI? Is it still a long ways off, or is it happening today?
So it is happening today, right? And WWT, so this started probably more than 12 months ago. We became an AI-led company, right? And it started with executive leadership initiatives to drive investment in AI, right? And obviously, any space that operates in the high-performance architecture space, right? Think NVIDIA, obviously NetApp has a footprint there.
Yeah.
I think the networking side, that is where we're investing. And with our Advanced Technology Center, we have morphed that into what we call the AI Proving Ground. So you can think of what used to be the Advanced Technology Center. It's still there. People can still use it just like they used to. But now we have taken all of the reference architectures that are sponsored by NVIDIA and put them into an AI-specific playground for our customers to use, right? NetApp has a presence in there with their high-performance storage systems, and we can actually showcase to customers the ability to do AI and do it effectively, right? And
so are these proofs of concept? Are these POCs, or are they more like you're assisting them build theirs?
Yeah, so that's one avenue, right? So proofs of concepts are obviously a huge part of what we do. So we love to bring customers in. We love to give them a place to validate, test, prove out, and then eventually, hopefully, move it into production in their own environments, and we will help them do that. But a piece of the ATC and the AI Proving Ground as well is giving ourselves the knowledge and the rigor and the discipline around how to make AI effective, right? And how to take it from, that pie in the sky to something actually practical, right?
Yeah.
And that's how we voice it at WWT is taking the best of, predictive AI or applied AI and generative AI and making it practical, right?
What industries are you seeing take it up the most? Is there a particular vertical that is really like ahead of the curve when it comes to whether it's RAG or whether it's using any kind of Nemo integrations and stuff like that? Is there a particular vertical, an industry that's really taking this by storm?
That's a great question, and there definitely is an uptick, right? So if you look at the service provider landscape, I would say they're the ones furthest ahead, right?
I wouldn't have guessed that. Interesting, okay.
And alongside them, right, obviously life sciences, pharma, and financial services, right? Those are the three that are further ahead, I would say. More general enterprise, they're still dabbling, right? Trying to figure out what's the strategy look like? How do I do it? There's a lot of initiatives or excitement in the public sector, but the problem that we've seen in public sector is pushing that to the forefront, right? They're a little bit more reserved. They take a little bit more time with implementing the solutions, but they do have a lot of good ideas and they could see a lot of value, right? So,
So what kind of solutions do you see, I guess, is the next question where I wanted to go. With that in mind, what are the predominant ones? So my guess was going to be financial services, market making, things like that, that you can obviously predict that that's probably what financial services companies are going to be using it for. But it can also be predictive in the sense of helping companies project earnings, financial forecasting, things like that really can come into play. I guess what I'm curious is what kind of solutions are you seeing in some of those that are doing it right and running away with it?
Yeah, so I can give you an example. So in financial services specifically, they've all been trying to figure out this fraud detection and fight fraud, right, in some form or fashion. And they've been doing that for a long time, and I think they're still trying to do that. But where we've seen an uptick on the generative AI side is more around enabling their internal workforce to become more efficient, right? And you think about RAG, you think about chatbots, right? But it's about getting your data ready first and making it effective and efficient for the users, right? Whether they're internal users or customers that come to your site, right? So I think the first path in is always going to be some type of chatbot, RAG-based application that you can move forward with. There's very few people out there trying to build, train, or even do a lot of fine-tuning with the models, because there's so many models out there, and the ability to take one of those and implement it into a solution and use something like RAG to ingest your enterprise data is just so much quicker. The time to market is so much better, and you're not spending, countless dollars training and fine-tuning when you can take a model and augment it to fit your domain and make it specific for your end user. So there's another customer where they come to us in the AI Proving Ground, and we're big on making sure you have the right hardware for the right job, right? Or for the right use case. And we've spent a lot of time with the accelerators that we have in the AI Proving Ground, obviously the storage environments that we have in there as well, and the network environments, to do some significant testing around sizing for high performance architecture, right? So taking into account factors like what model are you going to use, what size is that model going to be, how many users are going to be hitting this, what kind of response times are you looking for, not just to first token, but also total response. And all of those things factor into how many accelerators you need and what type of bandwidth you need in order to produce the outcome, right?
Yeah, and that's going to determine number of GPUs, number of CPUs, network architecture, all of that kind of stuff,
100%, 100%, because everybody wants to start small, right? But if you have a 15,000 user base and they're all going to be hitting it at the same time, you might want to start thinking a little bit bigger initially, because you want to have a customer service representative inside your organization able to respond to your customers in a timely manner, right? You don't want them waiting hours or even minutes, right? You want the response from that prompt to be almost instantaneous, right? At least within a few seconds.
So let's do a quick role play exercise. Yeah. I'm a customer and I'm coming to you and I have no idea what I'm talking about. And I say, Dub, I want an AI. How do you start that conversation? What are the things that, before they call you, should they be considering? It's not a point and laugh kind of thing. There's no such thing as a stupid question. We love consulting with customers any chance we get to help them come up with solutions and stuff. But what are some of the key things, maybe lessons learned is a better word, that you've discovered throughout the last 12 months, as you were saying, that some of our viewers could maybe latch onto and go and inspect in their environments?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked it, honestly, because the first thing that we start with, right, when you look at it from walking into a customer and actually helping them, consulting them, building the strategy, the first piece of that is data, right? Where's your data? Do you have access to it? What kind of sovereignty and governance and compliance do you need around that data? Have you figured that out? Are there security protocols that you need? So that's the first conversation. And a lot of times, we don't get to have that conversation, but we need to, because if you have bad data, you're going to have bad AI, and the applications that use it are going to have a bad experience, right? It's going to be a bad experience. And we're not even talking the responsibility AI component of that around, bias control and ranking and prioritization. That would be the next step after you get your data in order. If you move it a step further, so what we've done is we made an investment and we had executive buy-in, right? And we are big on having center of excellence. That's what we call it. Some people call it a tiger team. Yeah. We like to call it a center of excellence, and we help position that for our customers, right? Make sure that they have that in place. And the three main points that you need in that room, right, is a product owner or line of business owner, obviously executive buy-in and investment. Obviously, the data science team and the people that are actually doing the work with the models, and then your IT team, right? Your enterprise team that's going to support the hardware that you're going to buy, or even the platforms that you're looking to deploy in the public cloud. So it takes all of those teams to be in the same room and moving or rowing in the same direction. So that's what we did internally at WWT. So we started with what we call WWT Atom. And that is essentially taking all of the knowledge from the 30-plus years of Worldwide and our Advanced Technology Center, all the documents, all the POCs, all the enterprise data that we hold, and pumping it into a RAG-based application architecture, funneling all that data, and building our own internal employee experience chatbot that our sales teams and up to 6,000 users today can use. Now, that process has been an iterative process, meaning that, we didn't just push it to production and move on. We continually go through the data curation process to make sure that we are chunking the data properly, that we are embedding it properly, we're using the right embedding model. We ensure that the prioritization and ranking, and there's always a human in the loop aspect of this, and we're constantly feeding that data, and data is pumped through that pipeline every night, right? Like, we are constantly updating that pipeline. And what we've done with that is now we're taking it, and I think a key and where customers need to be in order to see ROI is they need to make AI a system of systems, and meaning it needs to be embedded into every application. So start with a fundamental component. Let's say it's a RAG-based application or architecture. Use that data pipeline, but then start feeding it and spreading it into all of your other internal tools or customer-facing tools. So we took what we did with Atom, and now we have launched an RFP assistant tool. And it's all based off the same fundamental data pipeline. We are just enabling a new set of users and a new functionality for the front end, but using the same methodology, right? So, like I said, it's iterative and we are getting better at it, but it's not every customer is the same. Like, I hate to say every customer is a snowflake, but if your data isn't, no customer data is the same, right?
Yeah.
And in order to make it effective, you have to use your own data to make it effective and to make it domain specific.
Well, so there you go. Good
if
first
you can't
step.
Get that in order, then...
And it goes back to the thing, guys, you guys are going to get tired of hearing me say it eventually. No data, no AI. So if you're not curating your data properly, if you're not taking care of it, if you're not indexing it and doing all of the things, inferencing all of your images, doing all of that stuff. Like, we've recently turned on Doc, our chatbot, DocBot, I think they're calling him, basically for our ONTAP documentation. And we've learned so many things. They've been through so many iterations, just like you said. So, yeah, we're learning just as much as you guys are. We're excited about it. I know you guys are excited about it. But I appreciate you stopping by the show, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hang out with you this week.
Yeah,
Looking
I'm
forward to
excited
seeing what
too.
you guys come. Promise me something. Can I come to see the Center of Excellence in the ATC,
For
what
sure.
you were describing earlier?
For
Maybe
sure.
we can do a longer show
yeah,
there.
we can go through all the lessons that we've learned internally, right?
Awesome.
I do want to say, like, for people that are here at Insight, we have a session specifically on a successful path with AI with WWT tomorrow at 2 p.m.
Nice. And we'll have these available online as well for those guys. If you're watching from home, we'll have these sessions available online for people to watch as well. So, Derek, thank you so much for dropping by, man. I really appreciate you taking the time, and look forward to getting to hang out with you this week, man.
Thanks, Nick. I appreciate it.
All right, take care. All right, guys, moving right along. Whew. Are you guys tired yet? I'm not. I still got to go to a reception after we're done here. We're having a blast. We're having a good time. Moving on to the next one. It's time to get geeky. It's time to get into the gooey, geeky details, because if you've watched me long enough on some of these shows, you know that I am a super hardware geek. I love hardware. And we can't spend a day talking about AI and not talk about hardware. So I had to go get the hardware man himself when it comes to all of our AI solutions. I believe he's been involved with it from the beginning, but we'll verify that in just a second. Mr. Dave Arnett. Dave. Thank you so much for joining, man. I've been trying to get you on the show for like a year.
I know, man.
And you're a hard man to get a hold of.
What can I say?
But I really appreciate you making the time for us today.
Yeah, no problem.
We have some things that I want to be delicate about how I say them and how we communicate them. So there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to hardware related to some of our AI solutions. Can you sort of take me down the high level of what that looks like and what those integrations are as far as when it comes to AI and what hardware pieces people need to be considering above and beyond a storage system?
Well, the whole architecture matters, right? The network is critical, the compute systems themselves, right? This is a workload that is entirely compute dependent, and even though we like to sell storage, our role in it is not about delivering storage at that. It's more about managing data.
Yeah.
Right. And so the infrastructure we're talking about, like NVIDIA DGX servers or the equivalents from some of the OEMs, they all kind of offer the same things. NVIDIA doesn't really mind where you buy your GPUs from as long as you buy GPUs. So all the OEMs offer the same things. And then NetApp, we've been working with, like you said, I've been working with NVIDIA since basically NetApp started working on these things.
Was that like ONTAP AI stuff in 2016, I believe is what it was?
2018 was the first one we released, so 6 years ago. And that was with the original DGX1 hardware and kind of our existing storage platforms at the time. Things have come a long way since then, right? The servers have come a long way. It's astonishing to me that something as powerful as a DGX1 is basically obsolete now, and they don't even support them anymore. And even though our data scientists are getting a lot of really good use out of the ones we bought back then, we can't get parts for them if they break. So it's kind of hard to work on.
It's kind of like running a modern video game on a 1080 Ti. Like it might run for a minute. But
that's right. Yeah. So. We've been doing a lot of work now. Obviously A100s and H100s is the kind of current generation. Doing a lot of testing. We've got a new storage platform that's come out. Basically delivers twice the performance of an A800. The testing I'm doing is with an A90. And it's basically twice the performance of an A800. And the beautiful part about it, as a hardware geek should appreciate, the A90 is a direct head swap into an A800 chassis, so you don't have to replace disk drives, you don't have to change anything about your configuration. You pull out the controllers, you put new ones in, you're going twice as fast. That's awesome.
So all of you A800 customers out there, I hope you were paying attention, and if you haven't, contact your reps, because that's maybe one of the easiest head swaps we've ever done.
It's amazing to me that it is that easy, right? And unfortunately, the only thing you don't get out of that head swap is the lighted bezel.
I thought we really nailed it with the A700, especially with the A900, where everything was kind of vertically mounted, and you could just pull the controllers out back in.
Yeah.
It got even better. So
I love the new hardware. The new hardware is so awesome.
Yeah.
Every part in it comes out of it without a tool. You can swap, network cards without tools while it's hot. You got to reboot it to get them to recognize, but it's so much easier to work with, and everything is really accessible on the back of the systems. And they're twice as fast as they used to be.
They're screaming crazy.
They're screaming fast, and they're only going to get faster, right? There's a lot of work at ONTAP coming that's going to make that go even better.
So when we've announced some NeMo solutions back at GTC earlier this year. We've had the various AI pod solutions that have come out throughout the year. There's been something else that did it get announced today? Can we talk about it?
Not really.
No, not yet. All right.
Tomorrow.
So
there's some really good stuff coming tomorrow.
There's some stuff coming tomorrow, but I probably should have had him on tomorrow. Maybe you can sneak back over.
I'm happy to come back tomorrow.
But we have some more stuff coming, guys, as far as that's concerned. Where does so you mentioned going over the whole architecture a second ago. What's different about architecting a system for AI versus what you would consider a normal client server or virtualization system when it comes to that? How does it come into effect when you're slapping a DGX in the computer?
Well, at the end of the day, we're talking about some pretty demanding workloads, right? Extremely high read throughput requirements, extremely high write throughput requirements. So we're talking about networking at 100 gig or faster speeds. The new generation of ONTAP hardware supports 200 gig now, and will support 400 gig in a future ONTAP release. It just gets big. It just gets bigger and bigger, like I said, the network needs to support the kind of connectivity and performance that we're looking for. NetApp, obviously, we're huge on NFS, and with the last couple of versions versions of ONTAP, we've released a number of features that basically turn ONTAP into a parallel file system.
Yeah.
And so we can deliver really, really massive scale performance now out of the same package, and at the same time do all the data management stuff that actually makes AI a lot easier to do.
Well, you brought up NFS as that. I'm thinking about on the block side, like what some of the advances we've made of NVMe over TCP. Does that have a pretty big? Is that a big difference maker when it comes to these kinds of solutions?
Well, I'll say AI is not a block workload kind of not a block,
big file
not a block
reads and
storage
stuff?
kind of workload, right?
Okay.
It's basically either it's massively shared file systems, right? So that means either a distributed or parallel file system, or it means something like an NFS server that's capable of delivering that. So we really don't see much in the terms of kind of block protocols. The local devices in the servers are NVMe, and we can use those as a cache if we really need to, but generally our systems are fast enough that we can just run without it.
Kind of plays into our strengths quite a bit.
Straight into
right?
our wheelhouse,
ONTAP tends to love those the file-based protocols the most, right? What was this? I wrote something down here earlier to talk with you about specifically, and that was the data mobility part. When we talk about building these sorts of pods or these kind of prescribed architectures to be able to do AI and things like that, when you get to mobility, does it become more difficult or less difficult in that sense? Do you have to have like versus like? Is there somewhat? Is it as long as it's on tap? Is that good enough?
Well, I'll say as long as it's on tap, it's good enough,
Okay.
right? Like the challenge here is, and this is a thing I say to basically every customer I talk to these days, AI is a data challenge. It's not a performance challenge. It's not I mean, the performance and the infrastructure are kind of required, but without data, it doesn't happen. It doesn't matter how good the infrastructure is, right? So the flow of data from wherever it's collected or created into a training environment where it can be used to do AI things, or even stashed for doing RAG purposes, right? To actually have relevant data put where it can be accessed for an on-demand type of system. That's a much bigger challenge that our customers are facing than just delivering performance for the GPUs.
Well, it's also a much bigger, different kind of workload than just like standing up 100 VMs or something like that, right? And it's a different kind of architecture, different kind of networking.
Yeah, like I said, we're talking about 100 gig or better networking for storage. We're talking about 400 or 800 gig networking between the servers for GPU to GPU type communication.
Is that all InfiniBand? Like, what's realistically like? What can deliver that kind of bandwidth at this point?
800 gig Ethernet is available.
By who?
Mellanox.
Mellanox. Okay, so NVIDIA's doing it. Yeah.
I'll say in the largest scale architectures, InfiniBand is preferred, especially for that east-west communication.
Yeah.
Mainly because InfiniBand is actually architected and engineered to help accelerate those kinds of processes. Things like an all reduce. The Mellanox network can actually do an all reduce in the network before it gets to the server that needs it, so it just streamlines the operations. On the other hand, Mellanox themselves or NVIDIA themselves have demonstrated that their current generation of Ethernet switches is only about 150 nanoseconds slower than an InfiniBand switch, and I don't know many people who can measure 150 nanoseconds in their application stack, right? So that becomes a wash. So, we're all in on Ethernet. I wouldn't argue with the use of InfiniBand for the east-west communication, but certainly for a storage protocol, it makes much more sense, certainly for an enterprise, to use something like NFS that's already in the data center, and maybe we need to upgrade to a 100 gig network, but that's the same technology, just faster.
Well, comparative to an AI hardware solution, it's going to be a negligible cost almost to do that.
Oh yeah,
right?
compared to the GPUs.
Yeah, compared to all your GPUs,
the networking
and your CPUs,
the storage is a rounding error sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Dave, I really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for stopping by. Anything you want to leave other than the teaser for tomorrow?
Well,
Can I get a commitment? Can you stop back by tomorrow to chat with us?
I will absolutely stop back tomorrow. And
so we can actually talk about it?
One of the things I'll tease is that I did just on Friday. It hasn't really been publicized, but I've released a new version of the reference architecture with this AI90 and some of the performance results and a lot of the configuration details, really to help make it easier. There are some aspects that get a little geeky, and so that's a part of what I do, is make sure that we've help customers do it as easy as possible and still get that kind of performance.
Awesome. If you would send that to me, send me a link to it. I'll make sure we blast it out to everybody. All right.
Will do.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dave. Appreciate it, man. All right, guys. That's going to do it for Dave. Where we got a couple more. Well, we got one more. I believe we've got one more. All right, just checking my notes here. I don't know how to introduce this gentleman properly. It's not that I don't know him. It's that he needs no introduction. This guy is one of the guys that I go way back with. We've both been working here for God knows how long. We've been here for what seems like an eternity. We seem to swim around in the same circles with lots of things. And if you've been anywhere near NetApp in the last, 20 years, you know this man. So welcome to the show, Mr. Matt Watts.
Hey, Nick.
Thank you for joining me, Matt.
It's great to be here.
It's
Thanks
great
for the
to
invite.
see you again, man.
It's been a while. We don't catch up often enough. So
every other year at San Jose, we bump into each other
pretty much
randomly,
feels
but
like
yeah,
it,
yeah.
which would have meant 19 and a half times, right? Based on my tendency at NetApp, okay?
Right. I've been here since 2011. When did you join?
2005, May 2005.
Man, you got me by 6 years.
No catching up there.
Nobody's catching Gebhardt or any of those other guys at this point, right?
True, yeah.
Matt, I wanted to chat with you here to sort of close out the first day because today's theme has been all about AI.
Yes.
And I almost want to have kind of a theoretical, philosophical conversation with you here to close out the day rather than something technical.
Okay.
Because I look at this and I say a third of this is technical. 2/3 of this Mount Everest-sized thing that we're about to climb in the industry, and it's going to take, I think, many years to crest and figure out exactly what we can do with this new superpower that we've stumbled over our heels backwards into over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Where do you land on, obviously we've talked a lot throughout the show today about the technical nature of it, the skills gaps, those sorts of things, but on a philosophical level, is this the right move that companies need to be doing at this time, and why?
Yeah, so that is a great philosophical debate, which I wish I had my glass of wine here. We could really talk it through.
We'll do that later.
Yeah, I mean, look, I wrote a book recently, and one of the expressions that I kind of use in the book is it's about managing ripples and riding waves.
Yeah.
And, ripples are those kind of things that are just, regular progress of technology. And whilst they're really important, they're just things that we sort of have to deal with. Whereas waves are those kind of moments where you can suddenly create multi-billion-dollar, even trillion-dollar opportunities.
Right.
And I think AI has that potential.
I do too.
I think we're on the very crest of what Gartner would call the peak of inflated expectations. I think people are looking at AI as this special snowflake, this kind of uber technology that's going to, transform the world. It's going to. And I think, that is a use case. There are going to be companies out there that are going to find new drug discoveries. They're going to do some really incredible things. I think the reality is, in the short to medium term, most companies are going to get productivity improvements. And I think that's where we're going to start to see the real use cases is, if I can make your developers 30% more productive, if I can make your marketing teams 20, 30% more productive, what's the impact of that?
Yeah.
So I think that's that sort of... It's the reality, the what do they call it? The plateau of enlightenment, I think Gartner call it, right?
There's the early adopter stuff and then the plateau that you get, right?
So yes, I think the reality is companies, people listening to this, start to think more about what are those kind of productivity use cases, because I think those are going to be some of the short-term wins that are going to have some of the really kind of interesting opportunities and impacts.
I see this through two different lenses, honestly, if I can waffle for a second. I look at this through the lens of the consumer and what we're exposed to on the consumer side, the chat GPTs, the content creation assistants, things like that. I wonder how much of that is going to translate into those same people bringing it into the enterprise or bringing that expectation into the enterprise. I think the more people use and leverage chat GPT that maybe aren't technicians or technically proficient, I think they're going to bring some of those expectations. We see Microsoft doing it with Copilot in Office. So I think some of the adoption curve stuff is going to happen organically just by virtue of consumers using it openly in the market.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to bring those expectations in, which will drive that level of innovation that will force some IT departments to develop RAG solutions so that they can do the same thing they're doing with Office 365 with their own data, for example, right? And I think that's going to take a couple of years. I think we're already a couple of years into it, because we've seen the adoption and the skyrocketing of Copilot and ChatGPT over the last year or so, especially.
but I think this is really going to take off between the next 5 to 6 years.
Yeah, it's really interesting, to sort of carry on the sort of slightly philosophical debate. I met with a company fairly recently, and we were sort of talking about staffing and where they thought they would need to invest time and money and effort and bring resources in. And I remember the guy saying to me, he said, "We're going to need a lot more programmers for the future." And I said, "I'm not so sure." I said, "I think you're going to need a lot less programmers in the future." Yeah. Because they were still thinking about a very traditional kind of, we need developers to write code, we need developers to do this. And I actually think ChatGPT is your developer. Yeah. So I think as you say, as we start to embrace these technologies at home, I use, not on NetApp equipment, but I use ChatGPT in my personal life for a whole bunch of different things. Yeah. It will be very odd for me to come into work and not be able to do some of those things because I don't have access to that technology. So I think there will be peer pressure, consumer pressure that will force companies to realize
we've seen that before.
We have seen that
Whether
before.
it was bring your own device or remote desktops or whatever it might be.
I mean, hell, if you go back far enough, there were an awful lot of companies that didn't even give you access to the internet. Yeah. So you'd go home in the evening, you'd be playing on the internet, you come to work, you had no access. I mean, what was that all about?
Your dumb terminal green screen, right?
Exactly.
That's your work, no internet.
So I think you're right. I think as technology becomes more and more pervasive in our personal lives, it creates that expectation of,
why can't I use this at work?
Yeah, and your company also, if you're not careful, your company also starts to look a little bit old-fashioned. If you come into work and you're not able to use some of these technologies, what does that say about you as an organization to a younger generation that you're trying to bring into your company, that for them, these are native technologies that they use every single hour of every single day, right?
Yeah. I love this conversation. This is my favorite one I've had yet, and I'm glad we're sort of closing the day out on it because I think it's one of the most important. Yeah. I think there needs to be that war room that happens in every IT department at every company. You gotta get a stack of pizzas, and you guys gotta get a whiteboard and lock yourselves in a conference room and figure out what it is you want to do with an AI. Yeah. Not just say we need an AI. Yeah.
Well, otherwise we're in danger of repeating the 2000s, the .com. Everybody needs to be on the internet. Everybody needs a website. Everybody needs this. And I remember living through that. I am that old, right? Yes. But I remember as we kind of got towards the .com boom, people were just buying huge amounts of equipment because they all felt like they had to be in this .com thing. Yeah. I remember loads of that equipment never even left warehouses. It was literally stockpiled with the distribution companies, ready to go to sites, to people who didn't really even know what they were going to use it for. They just didn't want to be left behind. So I think you're right. You need a war room. And in fairness, I remember, this is going back about 4 or 5 months ago, George Kurian brought a group of us together. There was about 35 or 40 of us, some people like me who were more of the sort of interested observers, the futurists, but then a whole group of people who were looking at AI. And I remember he walked into the room and the very first thing he said was, the companies that get this right will be 30% more productive than the ones that don't.
Absolutely.
You cannot survive if your competitor is 30% more productive than you are.
He said it today in the keynote too, $7 trillion productivity increase over the next, 10 years, I think?
Absolutely. So you can't
monumental.
Ignore that. Yeah, you can't ignure that. So, and I think that's where it's getting interesting for me, is that we've started to move beyond the hero workloads, the solving cancer, which are great things, but they're the exclusivity of the very, very top kind of 2, 3, 4% of organizations. We're now starting to see the reality of, every organization starting to look at, okay, but what's the use case for me? And like I say, I think your idea of, companies need to create a war room of different individuals to start saying, okay, how do we start to bring these improvements, these productivity improvements to life across lots of different areas of our business.
And be creative. Brainstorm. Bring all the heads of departments together and be like, how would you like to use AI? Where could you use the most help? Yeah. What if you could do X, Y, Z? What would that help? Have those conversations, because those are going to be the big things that will help you to solidify what your path forward is. Yeah. And I don't think enough of that's happening. I think there's a lot of excitement about all of the new technology and hardware, and oh my God, right? Mm-hmm. But there's also a lot of sticker shock around the price and the cost. And I know something that's near and dear to you, we talked about earlier, sustainability. So it has profound impacts on sustainability and carbon footprint. So I look at this, again, through two different lenses. There's the consumer excitement of, I can use ChatGPT to write my next email. Yep. And then there's the actual, what's the word I'm looking for? The weight of what it was going to take to implement a proper RAG solution.
I agree.
Properly.
And if I tie those two things together, because you talked about sustainability, right? Yeah. We are at the beginning of a data explosion because of AI, right? It's been pretty big up until now. You've heard me talk about the global data sphere by 2030 is going to be 1 yottabyte of data, right? So it's massive. Now that's everything created by everything. But even in data centers, the amount of data that we're creating, it's 1 to 2% of the world's electricity by 2030 will be powering storage devices.
Wow.
Which is just mind-blowing.
I can't even get my head around that.
But then there's the other statistics. So thinking about it from a sustainability perspective, the numbers are about 68% of the data that we create is never, ever used again after it's created.
Yeah.
So I look at that from a sustainability angle, but how do you solve that? And I also think that maybe that's a use case. If I could vectorize that data and point a large language model at it, what could I go and ask of that data that I'm currently doing nothing with at all? What could we learn from it? What could we find out from that data? And if we can't find out anything from it, does that now give me a target to be able to reduce the impact of it, to move it somewhere, to, God forbid, delete it, right?
Does the data become less useful?
Does the data become less useful? Because now you've squeezed all of the value out of it.
Yeah.
And if you keep looking at it, you keep asking it questions through RAG, and you're not getting any useful information back, you kind of wrung that as much as you can. So I think you're then in a better position to say, do we even need this? So yeah. I think AI has the potential to, whilst it will create a lot more data, I think it offers a potential to help us solve some of the data waste problem that we've got.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of fascinating use case for me.
I think part of what you were just describing for me as well is you have to get past novelty. So it's cool to point it at your backups from 1998.
Yeah.
How useful is that? It's not, really.
No.
It's cool. It's kind of cool that you can still pull all that stuff up and query against it and see what it was in Betty Sue's spreadsheet in accounting in 1998.
Yeah.
It's not useful. And for some reason, we keep a lot of that stuff around us for audits and things like that. But at the same time, I look at it as like, how do you determine what's useful and not? I don't know that we've figured that out yet. I look at things like what Chris went over in the keynote today as the global namespaces and then throwing classification on top of that or within that. And that's going to be able to give you a sorting and filtering mechanism to be able to look through, all right, access, how many times has it been accessed? You can really start to drill down into how it's being used, or if not at all. And then you can make a kind of a decision an informed decision about what to do with it.
The challenge. One of the challenges is going to be the same challenge that we've bounced around for the last 40 plus years, which is who actually owns the data and is going to make that decision. Because we've both been in this industry for a little while. If you go and talk to the application teams, they say, well, it's not our data, it's the IT guys own the data.
Yeah.
And you go and talk to the IT guys and they say, no, we're just the custodians of the data. At some point, companies or somebody within an organization is going to have to take responsibility, because we can't keep storing 2/3 or more data that is single use, consuming vast amounts of power that has no value to businesses. So I think AI offers us an opportunity, but I think it's still going to come down to who inside an organization is going to be authorized, approved, trusted to make a decision about what do we actually keep. And we haven't solved it for the last 40 years. I'm not sure how we solve it for the next.
It's a good point that still needs to be solved. I'll throw an example out there, and we can sort of rap about this for a second to close things out. Where does the responsibility lie, going back to the sustainability angle? So if individual companies manage their own data, what about the service providers? What about the social media networks that have petabytes of photos and historical messages, posts, videos, whatever they may have, from 2007?
Yeah.
How much do we really need to keep that stuff? So I guess what I'm saying is the responsibility on the user of those platforms to kind of manicure and curate that data as needed, or is the responsibility on the services and the platforms themselves to kind of nudge the user to, hey, do you really still need this?
So, my sort of feeling is that they can't fix that problem, right? The reality is it sits with whoever is the owner of the data. So I think what we'll see with the big service providers, the hyperscale providers, the big social media networks, is they will drive towards powering the things that they do with renewable energy. And they've got a long way to go. Let's be completely frank about that. They have a stated ambition to be running off renewables. There's a lot of work still to be done.
Yeah.
So I think for them, their view will be, actually, we don't care. If you're storing it, you're paying for it, you're using it, as long as we're powering that technology with renewable energy, actually, there isn't an emissions problem that we need to solve. I think the challenge is going to be with companies who run data centers, data cupboards.
Yeah. Cupboards. Yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah, but my other favorite one is somebody said to me, "What is a data center?" And I said, for most organizations, it's a museum of past IT decisions.
Right.
Which they are. So I think there's a huge number of companies that are going to struggle to be running off completely renewable energy. So they're going to have to look at optimization strategies. They're going to have to look at how do we reduce the carbon footprint, not just of data. Servers are 40% of power consumption. So I think it's going to be a real mix of different strategies, but I think the big ones, the hyperscale providers, the big social media companies, they have to start looking at and seriously using almost 100% renewable energy, and that will be the way that they solve for the problem.
I think that's one of the ways, absolutely. I look at hydroelectric power as potentially coming up as getting a bit of a renaissance. I know nuclear is going through a bit of a renaissance right now.
Little small nuclear reactors.
I do think that. I was talking to, I think it was John Woodall was talking about it earlier. I think now that we've sort of unlocked fusion a little bit, I think we can now look at, okay, what's the world look like in 10 years when everyone has a tiny fusion reactor in their garage?
Yeah.
Powering their house, powering their electric vehicles. Right? That's kind of crazy to think about that's possible.
But Microsoft just recently appointed a head of nuclear power research. Yep. So, those big companies...
they bought and are powering up 3 Mile Island again, which...
There you go.
It's debatable whether that's smart or not, but I guess we're going to find out.
That's right. Yeah, I think things like that are going to be interesting.
Yeah.
If you go to... I was talking about how much power is consumed by data centers, just because it fascinated me. In Ohio, right now, there are 90 data centers that are currently on hold that have not been granted permission by the state.
This is aside from the Intel fabs that are being built there?
That's right, yeah. Aside from all of that, there are 90 data centers. There's more that are in progress. There's about 270 that are planned, but there are 90 that are currently on hold. Those 90 are the reason they're on hold is because Ohio does not have a power network that is robust enough, that has enough energy in it to be able to power these 90 data centers. So you immediately think, well, what's the power consumption of 90 data centers? 20 million homes. 90 data centers is the equivalent of powering 20 million residential properties.
Then why aren't we building data centers out in the middle of, I don't know, the flyover states where there's no, I don't want to say civilization, but I mean, there's so much vast empty land out there. I feel like Amazon did a really good job of taking advantage of some of that for placing their giant distribution centers and stuff, and it kind of helped jobs locally as well. So I look at that why are we trying to cram them all into Ohio? Not exactly the largest of states, but I love the fact that it's bringing technology and technology work to areas like that. But at the same time, I think, aren't there ways that we could... one of the things I heard Microsoft was talking about was they wanted to have, for every data center or every pool of data centers, an accompanying nuclear reactor they were going to build with it. This is one of their philosophies going forward, which I love. Thank you, Microsoft, for taking that approach. I think it's going to take stuff like that to get to these 270, you said?
There's about 270 that are sort of in the works.
Just in Ohio?
Just in Ohio. And of which 90 are currently on hold. And there's a whole political case that's going through at the moment because the power companies are effectively saying, for us to build an infrastructure to power that quantity of data centers, you need to make a payment and a commitment of 75%. In fact, they're asking for 90% of the power you're going to use over, let's say, a 10-year term. We need that up front in order to justify the investment that we will need to make into the grid.
So that we can deliver that.
So that we can deliver it, right? Yeah. So it's fascinating. I mean, anybody who's watching this, you drive down a motorway or you drive down the freeway and you can see a data center. They're fairly distinctive, right? Next time you drive past one, just realize that one data center is probably consuming about as much power as a small town. Yeah. It's probably 10, 20, 30, 40,000 people. Yeah. That one warehouse. You know, and most of this is not coming from renewables, and data is a huge part of the problem. And, you know, we're saying with AI, it's not just data. AI requires a lot of compute. The racks inside these systems now, or inside these data centers, you know, we used to build sort of 7 kilowatt racks. Now we're building 150, 200 kilowatt racks. I mean, it's staggering, right?
It's crazy. And we used to, and this is literally what I started out doing in the late 90s. Was installing generators and running into transformers and PDUs.
And standing on the roof of a data center spraying it with...
No, I wasn't doing that. I never did that. We did push a Sun V880 off of a parking deck one time. That was a fun story. I'll tell you guys about that one sometime.
I almost dropped you in it then, didn't I?
Yeah. No, looking at the numbers that we used to use, so you typically see like your PDUs have 20 amp, 30 amp breaker kind of settings on them. I think this is going to spur even more than that as we start to evolve the way power delivery happens in data centers. We're going to need new PDUs. We're going to need new power cables that are capable of delivering that level of electricity. The new Vino system, or the new systems that we launched earlier this year, have 2,000 watt power supplies in them.
Right.
4 of them per pair.
Yeah.
And I'm going, now they're smart, they're very efficient, they only power up what they actually need. Side note.
Yeah.
But that is 8,000 watts of power available at your fingertips should you decide to turn it up to 11.
Yeah.
And that's just a 3U storage system.
Yeah, and it still relatively pales in comparison to some of the big GPU devices, you know, that are out there as well. So
you stick that thing next to an H100 and
and it's going to lead to all sorts of interesting things as well. We're going to start to see, you know, liquid cooling and, you know, immersion cooling seems to be making a little bit of a comeback around certain things as well. So, you know, but I'm straying way off topic here. But
I love this conversation though. This is so I want to let's wrap things up with a couple of plugs. You were recently on a show on Amazon called The Futurist, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that? What was that like?
That was one of the most fun projects I've been involved with. I got into the whole sustainability thing about 4 or 5 years ago. Part of my looking to the future about what do we need to start paying some attention to. And I kind of incubated that inside NetApp, brought a lot of people together and, you know, just tried to get more people excited about the topic and really thinking about the topic. And it's been great to see so many people from so many parts of NetApp so enthusiastic, kind of wanting to be part of this sustainability thing. You know, that's been great. But then we had a call from our PR agency saying Ian Khan's been in touch, who's the futurist, and he wants to do a show around sustainability. Is it something NetApp want to get involved with? So we came up with this idea of let's talk about our partnership with Aston Martin Formula One. And of course, most people think, Formula One, sustainability? How do you match those two things together?
Right.
But for those of you who don't know, Formula One is on a goal to be completely net zero by 2030. Yep. And that's not just the teams, that's the circuits. Yep. That's everybody coming to the circuits. And so we sort of looked at it, and it was part of the reason we decided to work with Aston Martin was how cool would that be to be part of a sport that so many hundreds of thousands of people love and be part of that journey to help making it sustainable. And that was the episode. We did this whole episode on Amazon Prime Video with Ian Khan, the futurist, around the work that we're doing with Aston Martin. And it's we went to the factory, we shot at the factory, we met the CIO, Claire Lansley. Honestly, to have been through the kind of journey that I've been on over the last sort of 5 or 6 years, and then to sort of end it, because I'm really starting to try and move on to other things now, but to sort of end it by doing that episode, you know, showcasing the work that we've been doing, showcasing the partnership with Aston Martin Formula One, for me was just like a dream come true. It was just one of those amazing moments.
Yeah, I haven't got to see it yet. I'm really looking forward to it. We've been doing a lot of planning with this, but
cool.
I'm really looking forward to seeing it. I'm excited about it. My boss, Paul Vanderlingen, is also...
He's in it as well.
Yep, he's also a part of it, so shout out to Paul. Thank you very much for telling me about that. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys doing that stuff. And I think F1 is an interesting one, because it's not one you would think of, but the amount of data that goes into some of those, into motorsport in general, is insane at this point. The amount of sensors that are... There's something like 1,000 sensors on each one of those cars. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And what you have to realize as well, you know, as we were talking to Claire and we were talking to the team over there are just things you don't realize. Our equipment, because we it's flex pods that we have.
Yeah.
They're one of the few things that actually shipped with the car. So there's very little else that ships with the car. Everything else goes separately. But the FlexPods ship with the car. And the reason they ship with the car is they can't start the car without the mini data centers at trackside.
What? I had no idea.
So literally our equipment ships with them. So part of what we're doing with them isn't just about being, storing more data in less space. It's about how do we reduce weight. So we've also gone on, our efficiency is more than just saving money. It's about every disk we can take out is kilograms that come off the logistics, that come off the freight when these things have to ship. So yeah, every time they ship a car to circuit or the cars to circuit, there is a FlexPod, a mini data center that goes with them and ships. And it's like I say, it's the only thing that ships with the cars.
That's really cool.
So that's pretty cool.
You mentioned earlier you wrote a book. Tell people about the book, if you don't mind, because I'm really looking forward to reading it as well.
Yeah, so I mean that was another kind of really interesting project for me because I've struggled with writing. I didn't pass English language at school, English literature, but I've sort of got better over the years doing blogs and things like that. And I sat down over the course of 2 or 3 months and just wrote everything that was in my head, and with no structure to it or anything else. And the more I wrote, the more I started to realize there was a pattern emerging, and you could start to group a lot of the stuff I was writing into sort of 2 or 3 categories. So initially, going back 6 or 9 months ago, the book was called The Third Wave, and we never published it. It was just a book that we used internally for kind of internal education and stuff like that. And then, of course, AI happened.
Yeah.
And particularly in November last year, the ChatGPT, suddenly 200 million AI users. So I updated it, and I wrote this whole section around AI being the 4th wave. We included some bits on sustainability and all those sorts of topics. And we just thought, what the hell, let's publish it. So it's on Amazon.
What was the first wave? Humor me, I'm curious, in your mind.
So there'll be a lot of people watching this that probably weren't even born during the first wave. So for me, it was modularization.
Okay.
It was the shift from the sort of the monolithic technologies. Yeah.
Or the modern transistor, probably.
It was going from, if you remember back to the days, EMC had symmetrics and HDS lightnings, these big, beautiful pieces of technology, but massively inflexible, hugely expensive. So I think the first wave for me was the move towards modular, kind of rack-based type equipment, which is what we all depend on nowadays.
Yep.
The second wave, virtualization, and I say virtualization because you had a choice at the beginning, Citrix, VMware, Hyper-V, KVM. We landed on VMware, for good or for bad, probably a separate discussion. Third wave being cloud, because I think, and the waves for me are truly disruptive. I said earlier on, it's about managing ripples and riding waves.
Yeah.
You have to manage the ripples because they're a natural part of you growing your business. But if you can spot a wave, it offers you a multi-billion-dollar potential, both as a user, as a company that's operating in the space, or as a tech vendor like ourselves.
Yeah.
It was a rewarding process because, again, being somebody who was never very good at writing, to be able to get a book, albeit a small book, out and published and call myself an author was just, it was just personally really gratifying.
Well, where can people grab a copy if they're interested in reading it? Are they available here at the show as well?
We did a book signing today.
Nice.
So we gave away a bunch of copies today. We're going to try and schedule another book signing on Wednesday, so we'll give away another few copies. If people are interested, it's on Amazon.
Okay.
So you can download the Kindle version.
Kindle
you
book.
can get a softback. The special hardback edition, which is particularly cool as well.
Are you going to do an audiobook, a narration?
I've been asked, and
you have a good voice for it. You should.
So I think to an American audience, maybe that's the case.
Oh.
But I don't know. I think it's tempting, but I don't know. Maybe if we get enough requests, then.
You heard him, guys. Send in those requests if you want. If you're going to get Matt Watts' book, The Fourth Wave, make sure you send him a note and say he wants you to, or you want him to narrate the audiobook. Matt, this has been fantastic. I always love hanging out with you and talking with you. They are some of the most philosophical conversations sometimes, but usually have the most weight to them as well, and I really appreciate it. Anything else you want to leave with the people before we get out of here for the day?
I don't think so. I think they probably had enough of me droning on about various bits and pieces. I just, look, I'll leave you with this. I just think, I think embracing new things is just so fundamental, and it's something that, as I get older, it becomes more easier to dismiss things because it requires change. It requires us to adapt, to evolve, and sometimes we don't see the value. So I'll leave you with a quote, and it was from Douglas Adams, who Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And the quote isn't "Don't panic." He has this expression. He said, "Everything that exists in the world when you're born is normal," which really gets you thinking. But he then goes on to say, everything that comes along between the age of 15 and 35 is an opportunity, and potentially you can build your career around it. But everything that comes along after you're 35 will bring about the end of the world and must be completely rejected.
Yes.
And I love that expression, because every time I see something new, and maybe I don't perceive the value, or maybe I almost want to dismiss it, I constantly have that in my head, which reminds me, just because something doesn't have value to me doesn't mean it doesn't have value.
Yeah, our natural inclination at this age is to go, no, hold on, whoa, hang on. But to someone that's 24, 25, that's new in the industry, that can see that vision of the future.
I agree.
That we used to 20, 30 years ago, honestly. Like, I think that sometimes we need to just get out of our own way and enable them.
Exactly. And that's, so I think that's a good kind of point to leave things with you. It's just... It's difficult, but we just constantly have to embrace change. The reality is all of these things are going to happen with or without us, and it's much more fun if it happens with you.
Absolutely. Matt, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate you taking all the extra time, and I'm going to close things out, but go have a beer, and I'll come find you in a little bit.
Absolutely. Look forward to it. Thanks again, Nick.
Thanks, Matt.
Much appreciated.
We did it, guys. We did it. Day one is in the books. As far as what tomorrow is going to look like, tomorrow is going to be a little different. Instead of doing it this late at night, we're going to be doing it first thing in the morning. So the keynote starts at 9 a.m. Pacific, goes for about an hour and a half, and then we're going to be right back here at the desk roughly around 10:30 or as soon as the keynote ends. So make sure you jump into Discord to keep track of everything. Make sure you're following along over on netapp.com or insight.netapp.com for all of the information about the agenda tomorrow. We're going to start early, and we're going to go all day. So make sure you're joining us again. Join Discord. That's the place to be. The hub of the wheel. All the things will be in there. Am I missing anything? No, I think I just need to do some more scribbles. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us. Shout out to Drew Claybrook, our communities manager. Shout out to everybody watching on YouTube. Shout out to everybody watching and hanging with us in Discord. Love you guys. See you tomorrow.